with that relationship under strain, that unity threatened, Ontario will chart a course for its own future.
If they come, Trump's tariffs will devastate our economy, and they'll hit the bottom line of every household in Ontario.
And we need a government that's going to lead and going to build the homes that are permanently, deeply affordable that Ontarians need.
If you want a family doctor, we need to change the government.
We have to make sure that the government provides the mental health and addiction supports that people need.
Tonight, Ontario chooses a path. From the beaches of Lake Ontario to the ice on the Rideau Canal, from Niagara Falls to the shores of Hudson Bay, the people will decide. Starting right now, this is Ontario Votes. Good evening, I'm Dwight Drummond at the Canadian Broadcasting Centre in downtown Toronto. Here we are again, more than a year ahead of the next fixed Ontario vote. After the Premier called a snap winter election, in less than an hour, we will find out who Ontarians voted for. Will they give Doug Ford the mandate he's looking for to take on the tariff threat and a rare third majority? Will Marit Stiles, NDP, finally bring her party to a breakthrough or be able to just hold on as the official opposition? Can former Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Cromby bring back the Liberals from the political wilderness? And will the Green Party make a mark in rural Ontario? Polls will close in about an hour, and we will bring you results as soon as they come in. The countdown clock is on your screen. We've got a lot of ground to cover until then. Let's meet the team tonight. David Common will be going through the results for you, watching key ridings and close matches. He'll break down the path to victory for our government and our official opposition. Senior Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley is here to give his insight throughout the evening. And a very familiar face when it comes to covering politics, Rosemary Barton, CBC's chief political correspondent, is here, and she is joined by our panelists, Ashley Chinati, Vivek Prabhu, and Marianne Nader, all here tonight. We've got the reporters in ridings around the province and at each of the party headquarters. We've got you covered. Lorenda Redekop is at the PC Party's campaign headquarters in the riding of Etobicoke North. Lane Harrison is standing by at the Liberal Party HQ in Mississauga. Dilma Nutduck is in downtown Toronto at the NDP base. And Farah Morelli joins us from Guelph at the headquarters for the Green Party. Rosemary, Doug Ford says he wants the largest mandate in Ontario's history. His critics, though, say this is all about timing.
Yeah, and both things, I think, are true in this case, Dwight. Certainly, the election was called 15 months early. We all understand that. And it was called because Doug Ford saw an opportunity here to grow his majority in the face of Donald Trump, in the face of a changing situation in federal politics. But in order to get there, he has had a fairly safe campaign. He's not out there giving a million interviews, although he did take part in the debate where our own David Common moderated. He is hoping to break through. He's hoping to get a third majority this time round. We'll see whether his argument about him being the best person to take on Donald Trump, even as the Premier of Ontario, made a difference here for people in this province tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Crawley is here. He's got Queen's Park covered for a long time and has been following this particular campaign very closely. So, Mike, take us through the highlights.
Look, Dwight, what really struck me is just how firmly Doug Ford and the PCs were able to control everything about this campaign. In addition to picking the timing, they framed the ballot question as being who is the leader that's best placed to protect Ontario, Ontario's economy, and Ontario jobs with the threat of tariffs. Marit Stiles of the New Democrats and Bonnie Crombie of the Liberals, they tried to get other topics onto the table, including the state of the Ontario healthcare system, but it was a real uphill battle for them. Let's take a look at how the campaign played out.
Protect Ontario.
Doug Ford visits the Lieutenant Governor, triggering a snap election 15 months ahead of schedule.
But it's all about protecting the people of Ontario.
Ford saying he needs a new mandate from voters to take on Donald Trump's tariff threat. The other party leaders aren't buying it.
Because the Premier has selfishly called an election to put his own job ahead of the jobs of the people in this province.
I think that Doug Ford called a snap election in the middle of the winter, hoping that people wouldn't get to the polls.
And we know that the RCMP is already investigating his government, and we know, frankly, that's why we're in an early election.
Here we go.
Finding themselves thrust into a rare winter election, the NDP's Marit Stiles, the Green Party's Mike Schreiner, and Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie hit the campaign trail with plenty of promises.
Right now in Ontario, there is no community where a full-time minimum wage worker can afford rent. We have to stabilize this situation.
And I pledge to you today that you will have a family doctor in the next 4 years.
We are going to fix our schools.
We're going to build the 401 Express Tunnel.
Through snow and frigid temperatures, the candidates crisscross Ontario, their paths briefly meeting for two debates, the first in North Bay.
Where are the houses? Where are the homes that Doug Ford said he was going to build? Where are the homes, Doug?
To distract from the failure to actually build homes and the $8.3 billion Greenbelt scandal, I believe is highly irresponsible.
You know, something's very simple. You protect the economy, you protect the people's jobs.
Yeah. Jobs are leaving this province. Construction jobs went to Alberta and to BC because they're building homes.
The second in Toronto.
Good evening. Live from the Canadian Broadcasting Centre, I'm David Common.
For Marit Stiles and Bonnie Cromby, it's their first province-wide televised debate as party leaders. Both seize the opportunity to go after Doug Ford.
Unfortunately, Doug, you don't get the plight of real people because you were raised privileged with a silver spoon in your mouth.
You cut $1,500 per student from our education system.
After the onslaught, Ford makes this pledge.
If I get a strong mandate from the people of Ontario, I will work harder than I've ever worked.
Ford also takes his anti-tariff message to Washington, D.C. twice during the campaign.
I think it's great for the Americans to see us here as well.
Now, after an exhausting 28 days, tonight's winner won't have long to savor victory. Starting tomorrow, they'll need to steer Ontario through what could be the most challenging period the province has faced in decades. So you saw Doug Ford's trips to Washington there. The CBC Research Library looked into this and could not find a single example of the leader of a major party in Canada leaving the country during an election campaign. And I got to say that I never imagined, Dwight, that covering an Ontario election campaign would take me to Washington,
D.C., which you did get to go on one of those trips. Thank you for that, Mike. We've got about 52 minutes until the polls close. Let's bring in David Common. David, what are you keeping a close eye on for us tonight?
Well, Dwight, close watch on some of the closer races. A lot of interesting ridings and regions to watch for. Let's get a look at some of them, and we're going to start in the Greater Toronto area. That's the band on top of Toronto. It has 30 seats, the most of any one region, and in 2022, it went almost entirely blue. The PC's missing just one seat, that was Oshawa, and they want it tonight. The challenge, the NDP's Jennifer French. She hustled to hold it since 2014, and who's she fighting against in this election? But a former PC MPP, Jerry Willett, back a decade after he was in power for a rematch. Come with me now to the opposite side of the GTA, Mississauga, a PC sweep in the last election. This time, though, Bonnie Crombie, the longtime mayor there, hoping to turn her popularity into her first provincial seat. Mississauga ridings have voted Liberal in the past, but Bonnie Crombie faces a real challenge from the Conservatives in her own backyard. Dwight.
That's one of the races to watch tonight. Doug Ford called this election in a high-stakes gamble, hoping to get a bigger majority than the one he already had. Let's go to Lorenda Redekop at PC headquarters in Etobicoke North, the heart of Ford Nation. Lorenda.
For sure, Dwight. And I saw a Ford Nation t-shirt. There aren't a lot of people from the public here just yet. People are just trickling in. But certainly in this room, they are expecting this to be a victory party. I don't know if you can see behind me, but there in the ceiling, the blue and white, those are balloons. They're expecting to be having a balloon drop later on tonight. And I'm also seeing off camera at the back of the room, it's a lot of PC staffers, people wearing those hats, those Canada is not for sale hats that we saw Doug Ford, the PC leader, come out with before he called this early election. And then when he launched his campaign, we saw him wearing those as well. Always hammering home that message that this election to him, he said it was about who is the best leader positioned to take on U.S. President Donald Trump and that threat of tariffs. The other leaders, they tried to bring up other issues, things like health care, the cost of living, the low number of housing starts, but he always went back to tariffs and Trump. And so now we'll see whether that gamble pays off for the PCs.
Definitely one of the themes of this campaign. Thank you for that, Lorenda. After the last two elections, the NDP has formed the official opposition. The question, polling this campaign, can they hold on to it? Dale Manoknak is live at NDP headquarters for us in downtown Toronto. Dale.
Yeah, Dwight, and that's obviously the question is, can they hold on to that official opposition party status? We know that Marit Stiles has been very clear on her goals to be Premier of Ontario. She's repeated along this campaign that Doug Ford quit his job. I'm applying for that job. And we know that, despite her application for that job, that holding that position as opposition party leader is really the race that she's likely going to be in. If you believe the polls, there's a surge in support for Liberals, and that could threaten the NDP's standing at Queen's Park. So they're going to need to hold on to that urban support in places like London, Hamilton, Niagara, of course, Toronto, and in Northern Ontario, of course. And, it's been mentioned that this is her first time on the provincial election trail. And it's kind of showed, she's had to introduce herself to Ontarians, repeated a number of times that, I'm from Newfoundland. I came to this great province of Ontario to make things better. And she's pitched a platform on affordability, on, a monthly grocery rebate, doubling ODSP payments, as well as Ontario Works, and bringing in what they call real rent control, which brings in any building that was built past 2018. We know that Marit Stiles is watching the results from a nearby hotel, and she'll be joining after those results come in. Dwight.
All right, thank you, Dale Manoknak in downtown Toronto. Now, the last two elections saw the Liberals reduced to a distant third place. Tonight, they're hoping to gain back official party status in the legislature. Lane Harrison joins us from their campaign headquarters out in Mississauga, where leader Bonnie Crombie served as mayor for a decade. Lane.
That's right, Dwight. Bonnie has been very, very successful in this city, in Mississauga, and she and her supporters are hoping that that success will translate to the provincial level tonight. Not too many people here just yet, but I want to tell you a little bit about what the Liberals have got set up here at the Mississauga Convention Centre. We've got a bunch of big red signs, big red Liberal signs with Crombie's face on them, and some of the other candidates that the Liberals are running in this election. And then you can see over my left shoulder, we got that big red stage there. That's where Bonnie Crombie will be addressing this crowd, according to her staff, once the results are quote-unquote definitive. And we know that Bonnie will be arriving here this hour. She's going to be watching the results in a room adjacent to this one with her two sons. And of course, they will be watching the race in Mississauga, East Cooksville, very, very closely. That is one where Doug Ford ended his campaign yesterday in that riding. So that is by no means a safe seat for them, Dwight. So we'll be watching that very closely, as will they.
Yeah, we're expecting a tight race out there. We'll see that tonight. We're going to continue to look at the party leaders across the province. Green Party, they've been making their pitch to rural Ontarians, hoping to grow their two-seat caucus. Farah Morelli is at their headquarters out in Guelph tonight.
Well, Dwight, this message we've been getting from the Greens in recent days is one of optimism and momentum, building and building. And I can tell you can certainly feel that in this room here as a lot of the supporters and volunteers pour in, from the folks who've been putting up the big signs behind me to some of the volunteers who were hitting the streets, canvassing and campaigning with Mike Schreiner straight through to the afternoon. Now, when you take a step back and you really look at this campaign, it really seemed to center and focus on some of the more rural ridings in Ontario. The Greens say that there are many community members in those ridings who feel abandoned by the PCs for some of its more Toronto-specific or urban-centric proposals and projects, things like building a tunnel under the 401 or redeveloping Ontario Place. These are projects that come with big price tags and often don't impact these people. So what the Greens have really done is try and tout some of the parts of their campaign that do impact these community members. These are things like healthcare, issues of affordability and housing, in hopes that they can flip some of these ridings. Now, this line that we heard a lot from Mike Schreiner through the campaign is, well, we've doubled the size of our caucus since the last election. And they have. They've gone from 1 seat to 2 seats. Really, success for the Greens tonight is going to be holding on to those 2 seats, one being his own riding here in Guelph, the other in Kitchener Centre, which they picked up in a by-election. That is a riding that was won handedly by the candidate Ashlyn Clancy. However, she is running up against new candidates tonight, and this is a riding that is flipped between the NDP and the Liberals. So they're going to be watching that closely this evening.
Thank you for that, Farah Morelli out in Guelph. And it wouldn't be a vote without some polling delays. And of course, we've got some for you tonight. We're hearing about some, and David Common has that very latest.
Yeah, Dwight, this information just coming in from Elections Ontario right now. So there are 4 polls, so ridings in 4 of these ridings, the results are going to be delayed. Let me take you through which ones they are. They are all in the Toronto or Greater Toronto area. Humber River, Black Creek, one of them, no results in this riding expected until 10:30. If I change over to now Parkdale High Park, we're not expecting results until 9:30, or not before 9:30, I should say. Next to Spadina, Fort York, no results expected to be reported there until 10. And finally, York Centre, that's in the GTA, also no results expected to be reported until 10. All we're being told is that there are delays at 1 or 2 of the polling stations. There can be lots of reasons for this. It happens quite frequently in elections, but all it means is the count will not begin until after the count has begun in some other ridings, Dwight.
Thank you for that update, David. Let's go to Rosie and the panel now for what they're going to be watching for tonight.
Thanks for that, Dwight. I'm going to introduce everyone formally once, and then we're just going to go by first names because we're all just going to have a good conversation through the next number of hours. I'm going to start here. Vivek Pradhu is a Senior Vice President at Hill Knowlton, Conservative Strategist. Marion Nader is a co-CEO of Nexus Strategy Group, former NDP strategist. And Ashley Chinati is Vice President, Macmillan Vantage, Liberal strategist. Okay, now we're just going to go with first names. Let's just lay the groundwork for what we are expecting, what you've been told, what you're hearing, what success looks like for you tonight. Start with the Conservatives, Vivek.
The PCs are feeling pretty good tonight. I think the campaign was very strong. They were able to really make the message heard across the province. I think for them, the point is to secure another majority government, but the context is different.
Sure.
The economic challenges are there to go pound for the next 4 years.
And does it have to be a bigger majority for it to be a success?
I think it has to be a majority to start, and then let's start to see where the night goes from there.
Okay, Marion, how about the NDP? What do you think success is tonight?
So I think for the NDP and Marit's success definitely looks like holding the seats that they have, flipping the ones that they lost, and gaining a couple. So in 2022, this has really actually been a battleground between blue and orange. And you can see that because Ford kept going into NDP safe seats. And so holding on to those seats is going to be hard. Some of them it's going to be a dogfight. Holding on to those seats, flipping the ones that they lost from 2022, and there's some interesting ones that they can pick up. York Southwestern, Sault Ste. Marie. The North is very important.
And keeping official opposition, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, Liberals are trying to climb back to something here. Official party status, certainly. So what is the goal here for your party, Ashley?
I think official party status obviously would be, the bare minimum.
That's 12 seats.
That's 12 seats. And Bonnie Cromby getting one of those as her seat. I kind of liked Mike Schreiner's line about doubling since the last election. Doubling sounds great to me. I think we do have an eye on official opposition, and we'd love for there to be a bit of a surprise against the polls and Ford knocked down to a minority. I think that'd be pretty, a pretty surprise result based on what we're seeing. But of course, you never know how turnout's going to go with a winter election and who's ground game. And there are some really interesting 2- and 3-way races that could split anyway. So I think it could be a very interesting result. And I think that what I'm hearing from the team on the ground is they're feeling really good in some of the races that we've put a lot of energy into, including Bonnie's seat. But you never know until the polls are closed.
Did you see Vivek's face when you said conservative minority?
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Okay, good. We're starting off strong, and we'll keep analyzing and getting your thoughts through the night. Thanks, everybody.
We also saw his sly smile when you asked him how he thinks they're going to do tonight.
You got to watch the faces for reaction.
Mike, what you're watching for tonight, the possibility of history being made.
Yeah, Dwight, you mentioned right off the top about Doug Ford going for a three-peat and just how rare this is in Ontario politics. The last time any party leader in Ontario was able to take their government to 3 straight majorities was the 1950s. Not even Bill Davis was able to accomplish 3 consecutive majorities. So that would be quite something for Doug Ford if he's able to achieve that milestone. And then there are some polling forecasts out there that are projecting the possibility of the PCs taking more than 90 seats. That has only ever happened one time in the history of Ontario. 1987, David Peterson's Liberals won 95 seats. So if we're getting anywhere upwards of 90, pretty amazing number. Marielle mentioned turnout as a factor. We've just got some recent numbers from Elections Ontario. As of 7:30, 4.2 million people have cast their ballots. There's about 11 million eligible voters.
Yes.
So there's often a rush at the polls in the last 30 minutes. So I'm not going to be able to kind of say, here's what that's going to be for turnout. But to give you the context, the last time, record low turnout in Ontario, it was 44% turnout overall.
That's the bar. We're trying to get higher than that tonight so we don't set another low record. When we do come back, we're going to check in with our reporters and some of the key ridings and those close races you need to catch up on before those polls close in about 39 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are just about, and I need that clock to come up on the screen. I'm going to tell you how much until those polls close, and it'll be about 36 minutes. And when they do, we expect those results to come in really fast. So let's head over to our nation's capital now in the riding of Ottawa Centre. NDP's Joel Harden won the last two campaigns there, but has since made the move to run federally. CBC's Robin Miller is with the NDP there tonight. Robin.
Hi, Dwight. Yeah, speaking of Joel Harden, he just walked in here a few minutes ago along with other supporters of the Katherine McKenny, who is running for the NDP in this riding of Ottawa Centre. They're a very familiar face in this city, a former city councillor, mayoral candidate. Everybody knows who they are. So there's a good vibe here tonight. People are expecting a victory. This riding of Ottawa Centre is one that's sort of been flipping back and forth between the Liberals and the NDP since the 1970s. Thomas Simpson running for the Liberals this time around. But definitely definitely one to watch. Another thing I want to mention here in Ottawa is that a lot of people are talking about some big promises coming through this campaign from the PCs, the Liberals, and the NDP, and it all has to do with our LRT system, our light rail transit system. The PCs offering to upload that system, the Liberals doing the same, the NDP saying that they're going to help with operating costs. Lots of people paying attention to that, but again, we are here in Ottawa Centre where I've just witnessed this place transform from a restaurant where people were eating their dinner into Katherine McKenny Watch headquarters. So we'll be here all night, keeping an eye on what happens, sending it back to you.
Thank you so much, Robin. The NDP is optimistic about their chances there tonight, but we've seen them dip in the polls. So which regions should they be worried about? Let's check in with our David Common again.
Yeah, absolutely, Dwight. I mean, there is the big race, and we'll start seeing results coming in, 34 minutes until those polls begin to close. We'll see the results on that, but I'm very interested in the drama at the individual level. Now, the last election, PC seat gain came at the expense of the NDP. The Conservatives are working to do that all over again. And the PCs picked up 2 seats in Northern Ontario last time. So once again, we expect to see several blue-orange battles tonight. That includes Algoma, Manitoulin. We're all keenly watching this one. A longtime NDP seat. Michael Mantha held it for 14 years, but he got booted from the NDP caucus. So now he's running as an independent. The NDP has a different candidate running against him. So this could be an opportunity potentially for the PCs to win by coming up the middle. Moving now to the southwest of the province, another region where the PCs made inroads last time around by flipping some NDP seats. And one seat that we're going to really be keeping an eye on tonight, Windsor West. Doug Ford launched his campaign in Windsor. His Labour minister a couple of months ago told the NDP incumbent, "We're coming for you." And so they have. Windsor West is in the heart of Ontario's auto industry. Ford's been focusing his campaign on the effects of U.S. tariffs. Similar story if we go to the Hamilton-Niagara region, where the PC's hoping their message resonates and that they can pick up seats once held by the NDP. And if they are able to grow their majority, it is in a region like this that will be key to that calculation. Dwight.
Thank you for that, David. Let's head over to one of those battlegrounds he's talking about. Chris Ensing is in Windsor West. Chris.
Yeah, Dwight, what a night tonight. A little chilly out here in southwestern Ontario, but we are ending the shift over here at the Windsor Assembly Plant behind me. You heard Common talk about the auto hub of Canada. Well, it's right here. And so when PC leader Doug Ford kicks off his campaign and said he wants to fight against these potential tariffs from the United States, this is ground zero. People are super nervous about what could happen with those U.S. tariffs, what it would mean for jobs and industries inside of the manufacturing sector that really has its heart in Windsor, Essex. Now, when Ford says he wants a stronger mandate to fight those tariffs, he needs to flip seats like Windsor West, where I'm standing right now, a riding won by the NDP for the last 10 years. You go back 20 years and it's a Liberal lock to get into cabinet or to get into power. Now, the Liberals don't have a person on the ballot. They had somebody who had to pull out because of a family emergency, and they weren't able to replace them in the final hours before the deadline. So the NDP are running an incumbent, Lisa Gretzky, who has a strong connection to the area and is trying to get back into power. The PC candidate is Tony Francis. A lot of people are asking who Tony Francis is. He hasn't done any media interviews, he hasn't done any debates, and it's been difficult to get a full picture of who he is and what he will represent if he were to be elected. When Ford visited Windsor yesterday to end his campaign, I asked a specific question to Tony to try and see why Tony Francis, the candidate, hadn't partaked in any debates. Here's that moment.
Chris with CBC News. I got a question for Tony Francis.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead, Tony.
Yes, if you could step to the mic here. You did not take part in any of the debates during this campaign. It's been called a disservice to democracy. Why not take part in any of the debates?
Well, hold on. That's an unfair question because I'm the leader of the party. I would rather have our candidates door knocking, hitting 400 or 500 doors than a bunch of people from all 3-4 parties. I've been in this game for a long time. You get all your party members there and you listen to a debate. Do you know what the best debate is? When Tony's out there knocking on doors, 300 to 400 a day he's knocking on and getting signs, getting support, IDing the vote and getting people to vote. So that's the answer for Tony. It's an unfair question to pose to a candidate. I'm the one who makes that decision.
My follow-up was to ask if Tony wanted to say anything or if he'd let the Premier speak on his behalf. The communications person, the leader of the PC party, asked for the next question. So, talking to people as they leave the shift right now, I've had a few people say they don't care who wins. One guy just shouted out he hopes that the Conservatives win. As far as what happens tonight, election parties, the reason we're not inside of one is because none of them are happening or available for the media to attend. The NDP will open up their headquarters for media to show up at 10 p.m. tonight, well after the polls close. And Francis's campaign with the PC party says that he's having a private event, not open to the public, and he will release a statement when the results are known. Dwight?
Chris Ensing out in Windsor. Thank you for that, Chris. And Mike, I mean, what do you think of that exchange? It was a fair question. They're not really taking part in some of these debates, talking to a lot of the media. What do you think about the reaction from Doug Ford there?
Well, certainly, yeah, reporters don't like it when there's a claim made that a question is unfair, because it seemed like a very perfectly fair question. Look, the PC media strategy was fairly clear through this campaign. It builds on the media strategy they had in previous campaigns. They want one clear message coming from the centre, from the leader. There were messages sent out to local candidates to not participate in all candidates' forums, not to do interviews with local media. I did a survey around our CBC outlets in Thunder Bay and Sudbury and Kitchener-Waterloo, Ottawa, all over the place. I found very few examples of the Conservatives being willing to let any of their local candidates do interviews. So really trying to control the message. But honestly, Dwight, when you look at the polling, it doesn't seem like it's making a difference. You know, Doug Ford also did not consent to any interviews with the media that regularly cover Queen's Park.
Yes.
Did a ton of interviews with U.S. media during the campaign.
And Rosie, that was one of the complaints. You're answering more questions in Washington than you are here in Toronto. So what do you think of that exchange?
Yeah, I also asked for many interviews with Doug Ford, and it was declined. I mean, listen, this is a perfectly legitimate communication strategy. It may be frustrating for journalists, but it is a way to sort of protect the message and keep, as Mike said, the strategy focused on the leader and on what they can control. I think the other piece, though, that we saw there in Windsor, and I'm going to bring you all in for that, is that there is the shadow of Donald Trump throughout everything, right across the country. And people in Windsor and other places are legitimately fearful for their jobs, their livelihoods. And that has been something, obviously, that Premier Ford has taken advantage of. Vivek?
I think he recognizes that, indeed, it is a massive anxiety for people when you look at their jobs, when you look at the future of the province, when you look at the future of the country. I think it's right to give the people of Ontario that choice as to what direction do they want to go for the next 4 years. And I think the Premier waged a campaign that was exactly about that.
And very hard for opposition parties to fight against that. When you have someone who is, appearing on Fox many times, who's traveling to Washington, who's taking on the mantle of Captain Canada, very difficult for the opposition parties to get in that space at all, Mario.
Yeah. There is a tsunami of fear out there.
Sure.
100% on the tariff issue. And he did take this as an opportunity. People saw it as being opportunistic. And so what he did was he took that fear, he called a winter election, he hid away from the fact that, the scandals after scandals that his government has had. And I think at the end of the day, that people see through that, but what they want is they want a doctor. They want to be able to afford food on the table, put food on the table for their families, and they want to be able to, have their schools not crumbling. These issues are not going to go away in 30 days.
Ashley?
The tariff threat and the Trump presidency have loomed large over this election in so many ways, right? It not only has it been something that people are really feeling in their own lives. I have people who work in the auto sector very close in my own family who are very concerned about what this means, but also in just the amount of time there is in the newscasts and in people's day-to-day lives to consume information about the Ontario campaign. And it's been a real challenge for any of the parties to break through and get people to pay attention to the fact not only that we're having an Ontario election, but that they have a choice if they are really concerned about the fact they don't have a family doctor, or if they are really concerned about the fact that, yeah, I'm worried about my job, but my kid's school is also crumbling. And so that loud rumbling from the States is just drowning out everything else.
And I wonder, too, about change in the face of it and how important stability is for people right now. And I guess we'll get a better picture of that soon. Thank you all very much. Dwight, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. We're keeping an eye on the polls all night, of course, but expect some delays. We're 24 minutes, almost 25 minutes to the polls close. David has been talking to some folks here, and you have an update for us, David, on what's happening with the delays.
We do indeed, Dwight. So I'm telling you about polls in 4 ridings where the results are going to be delayed. There are now 3 more ridings, and I'll take you through them. It begins in the GTA, and that is King Vaughan. We will not start seeing results before 11 p.m. in King Vaughan. In Orleans, also won't start seeing results until 11 p.m. Meanwhile, Algoma, Manitoulin in the north, we won't start seeing results until after 9:30. Now, the reason for this is that the polls, so a high school gym, a church, wherever the actual vote is taking place, 1 or 2 of those polls, there's a delay for some reason. And Elections Ontario, the chief returning officers decided to extend the voting potentially, or at least extend the time until the count takes place just in those particular areas. An important caveat, we will not be able to project a winner in those ridings until we obviously have results. But that doesn't mean that the CBC Decision Desk wouldn't be able to potentially project a winner of the overall election before that point, even with the delays we're talking about, Dwight.
And I know you'll be on that all night, keeping track of that for us. 23 minutes about until polls close. Let's head now to Northwest Ottawa, to the riding of Kanata-Carleton. The seat was held by the PCs for decades before the Liberals flipped it in 2023 in a by-election. Can they win it back? Natalia Goodwin is with the PCs there tonight.
Yes, hi Dwight. I'm here at candidate Scott Phelan's watch party, and it has really, in the last half an hour or so, turned into a party here at this bar here in Canada. And as you mentioned there, yes, Scott Phelan is one of 6 candidates trying to take this seat, and he is trying to take it back from the Liberals after they lost in that by-election in 2023. That only happened 19 months ago. So voters here may be having a little bit of deja vu going to the polls so soon again. And in that by-election, it was the Liberal incumbent that took the seat, Karen McCrinnan. She's actually a former Liberal MP for this area as well. So she'll try to be holding on to her seat. And that may be key for the Liberals here as well, because 4 of the 9 seats that the Liberals held before this election was called are right here in Ottawa. So this could be a key seat here, and it may be a tight race. In that 2023 by-election, Karen McCrinnan actually only won by 651 votes. So lots to watch here tonight to see which way this one goes here.
Thank you for that, Natalia. We will check back with you throughout the evening. We're going to take one last break before most of the polls close this evening. Grab your popcorn. We'll be right back. Welcome back. About just under 20 minutes until the polls close. Lorenda Redekop is out at PCHQ with a guest for us. Lorenda.
Hi there, Dwight. Yes, well, I am joined by Corey Tanaik. He is Doug Ford's campaign manager. And Corey, I know you have led all three campaigns now. There was a lot of criticism this time about going to face the voters early, 15 months ahead of schedule. And yet, there didn't seem to be any difference in terms of those poll numbers. Can you talk about why?
Well, I think that the electorate obviously agreed that this was an unusual situation and something that was existential to our economy and kind of an unparalleled and unprecedented threat. And getting a new mandate for that is something that I think made a lot of sense to voters. And you've seen examples of early election calls where the electorate has not agreed with the rationale for going early and punished the party that chose to go that direction. But you kind of saw the opposite this time. Rather than going down 5 or 6 points in the polls, we went up 5 or 6 points. So I think it's a unusual situation in many different ways.
And did you ever during this campaign wonder if was this the right call?
I think we're pretty confident that this is the right thing to do. It's once you call it, though, it's in the hands of the electorate as to whether or not they're going to give you that mandate that you're looking for or not. But I think it was the right thing to do to seek that mandate, and I think the Premier believed that in his heart, and I think that came across, and probably one of the reasons why that communicated well is it was very genuine.
And then we saw the other parties, they tried to make this about other issues. What did you think about that strategy, just briefly?
Well, of course, there are lots of other issues that the province is in charge of in one way or another, healthcare and education being two big ones. But if you look at those issues, it's nice that they would like to do that because they might score better than the leadership question or the economy question. But the three parties are basically in a three-way tie in terms of who's best to manage healthcare. So I'm not sure that that's an election campaign that might go better for them than this one did, but I'm not sure it's one that would have ultimately changed the government.
All right, thanks so much. That is Corey Tanaik, PC leader Doug Ford's campaign manager. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Lorenda. Now, there's an art to projecting an election. The CBC Decision Desk is a critical component of our coverage on election night. CBC's Julian Nope takes us behind the scenes.
Ever wonder what it means when you hear CBC projects an election? Well, the CBC News Decision Desk makes that call. Let's go visit the team to find out how it works on election night. All right, so this is where the magic happens. Just to start off with, what is the CBC News Decision Desk?
Sure. So the CBC News Decision Desk is a group of journalists who watch the vote as it's being counted across the province on election night, and they make projections about who's going to win. There's two parts of it. There's the Decision Desk that does the riding level projections. So they watch the vote come in all 124 ridings in Ontario, and they make calls in each riding. And then there's the government level call, which is what I do. I watch the vote come in from across the province, and I watch the trends, and if there's a wave, and I make a projection about the government, who will form government, and the size of that government.
And where does your desk get the information?
So Elections Ontario will count the votes. In Ontario, they are counted by tabulators, so the results come very quickly. And then they go through a media consortium, which is all the broadcasters, and some newspapers buy into the consortium, so we all get the vote totals all at the same time.
How do you know when to project a winner in a riding?
Well, first off, we need day of results. We can't just vote or make projections based on advanced polls, so we want to see day of results. And usually once we have enough votes in the system, we start seeing a pattern. And usually that's when the decision desk editor who has been studying the ridings and has been doing their homework and following the campaign locally, they understand the histories. Sometimes it's happened fast and sometimes we have to wait, but usually it's when we have enough data to see separation and enough margin for whoever's leading that we can make a projection.
Okay. So when do you know when not to project a winner in a riding?
Well, they call them too close to call for a reason. And when they're too close to call, when you see margins, especially leads flipping, sometimes it will be 7 votes, sometimes it will be less than 100, but often you'll see candidates leading for a while and then the numbers change. And when we see the numbers change like that, we wait.
How do you know when to call an election?
We watch a whole bunch of metrics. Every decision desk everywhere works on the same basic principles. How much of the vote has been counted and where that vote's from? What's the gap between first place and second place? And can that gap be overcome by the vote that's yet to be counted and where it's from? So everybody has their own algorithms and projection models and parameters and bars that need to be set, and we watch a whole bunch of different metrics. But once they've all been met, if the gap between first and second can't be overcome, you're safe to make that projection.
The discussions we make, they can be quick, but they're thorough. We have to be fast, but we have to be prudent and responsible, so we take the time that's needed.
The votes are counted, and every jurisdiction counts their votes a different way, but we go from province to province, territory to territory, and our process gives certainty to Canadians so that you can go to bed on election night knowing who your government is.
And there you have it. That's how our CBC decision desk works. We've got about 13 minutes until most polls close, and we can start bringing you some results. Remember, if you're still in line at 9 o'clock because of some of these delays, you can still cast your ballot and make your vote count. All right, let's check in again with David Common. The Ontario Liberals are looking for some gains tonight, David.
Yeah, absolutely, Dwight. They sure are. And I'm going to take you back in time to when the PCs came into power in the first place, 2018. The Liberals at that time reduced to the third party. Since then, they have not had official party status in the legislature, and that means no money for staff salaries or research, a reduced role in the legislature. It's not good. To get official party status, they need 12 seats, so they have to hold the 9 they had when the election was called and then pick up 3 more. So where do you do that? Well, Toronto is where that effort begins with Liberal versus NDP battles. And that takes us to Toronto St. Paul's. It was a Liberal stronghold. Here you go, until it went NDP in 2018. If the Liberals can't win in places like this tonight, it is not a good night for them. And that would be a similar story if we move over to University Rosedale. The Liberals hoping to unseat NDP incumbent Jessica Bell. Now, I am fascinated by Eglinton Lawrence. The PCs won it in the last 2 elections, but their incumbent is not running this time. And that can open things up. The NDP candidate dropped off the ballot and endorsed the Liberal. That doesn't happen all that often. We'll find out tonight how much of a boost that is for Bonnie Crombie's candidate here. All right, let's step outside of Toronto now and go to Central Ontario, entirely blue in 2022. But if the Liberals have a good night, their best chance at flipping a riding would be in Barrie Springwater, Oro-Medonte. It is the riding you see there of the Attorney General in Ford's government, Doug Downey. It was close last time, though. You see 296 votes, really close. Bonnie Crombie launched her campaign in this riding. That's the reason why. And it is one the Liberals hope tonight to be able to flip red. Let's go up to Northern Ontario. This is a really interesting region. The Liberals last time completely shut out, but their best shot at seats this time around will likely be in a stunning part of the province, Thunder Bay, which is right now getting about 25 centimeters of snow. Thunder Bay Superior North was a 3-way race last time. Could very well be again tonight. We're getting pretty excited about that kind of drama because the Liberals are hoping they can pick it up from the NDP. And it's these close races, Dwight, that we're going to see a lot of, and it is the source of a lot of tonight's drama.
You're getting us excited about that
Sure
race.
am.
So let's go check it out, that very exciting riding now. Thunder Bay Superior North, CBC Sarah Law is with the NDP there tonight. Sarah, as you heard from David, expecting a really tight one there tonight.
Yes, thank you, Dwight. So I'm here at the Outpost Campus Pub at Lakehead University in Thunder Bay, where NDP incumbent Lise Vaugeois is setting up her watch party. Folks are still blowing up some balloons and putting up some signs for the night. Vaugeois was first elected in 2022. Before this, Liberal Michael Gravel held the riding since 1995. Now, as was mentioned, it's looking like a really tight race between the PCs, Liberals, and NDP. PC candidate Rick Dumas is serving serving his 5th term as mayor of the town of Marathon. Meanwhile, Liberal candidate Brian Hamilton brings experience as a Thunder Bay councillor and also chair of the Social Services Administration Board. Now, Bourgeois has told us that some of her key priorities this time around are healthcare, education, and highway safety. Now, Thunder Bay is actually split between 2 ridings. There's Thunder Bay Atikokan, where PC incumbent Kevin Holland is looking like he's taking the lead. And as was mentioned, we are under a very significant snowfall warning across the region, 15 to 25 centimeters expected. So that may impact some of our last-minute voters here. But I guess we'll have to see. The polls are closing soon. Dwight?
Thank you for that. We will be checking back with you later on. Dale Manukduk now. He is at downtown Toronto at NDP HQ. And I understand you have a guest for us, Dale.
Yeah, that's right, Dwight. I have NDP strategist Jared Walker with me here. Now, Jared, the NDP's campaign strategy is hard to define when you look at the Liberals and the PCs, which is Trump tariffs, and then there was the Liberals with, we're going to get you a family doctor. So was the campaign focused enough?
I mean, I think that we've been doing what we've been doing since 2018, which is actually taking the fight to Doug Ford on the issues that people care about. After 7 years, everything in this province is more expensive than it's ever been. Rent is through the roof. People can't buy groceries. People are putting back broccoli at the supermarket, and those are the issues that we're hearing about at the door. People can't depend on their healthcare system like they used to be able to because Doug Ford has slashed and burned it, and the Liberals created hallway medicine, and that's what we've been talking to folks about.
2 challenges for the party, trying to flip blue seats to orange, but then over the stretch run of the campaign, we have Bonnie Crombie with the Liberals telling NDP voters straight up, don't vote for them, come vote for us. We even had the candidate in Eglinton Lawrence drop out, throw us to the support behind the Liberals. So how much of a challenge is dealing with both those things at the same time?
Well, like I said, we've been at this for a while. We're not Johnny-come-latelys, and our leader has had her seat and will continue to have her seat. We're focused on beating Doug Ford. We're focused on taking the fight to him on the issues that matter to people. And, that's why you've seen the Liberals try and come after us. They're running for second place, trying to flip our seats. And we are trying to build on the lead that we've already got, on the seats that we've got in the north, like in Thunder Bay, trying to flip blue seat to orange in Atikokan, trying to do that in the southwest with Essex, trying to do that in Toronto with York Southwestern and pick that seat back up. So that's what we've been doing, and that's the difference between us and the other guys,
NDP strategist Jared Walker, thank you for giving us some of your time, awaiting the results as much as everyone else. We'll send it back to you, Dwight.
Yes, we are. Thank you for that, Dale. About 7 minutes until polls close. Let's head out to Liberal headquarters now. Lane Harrison is out there with a guest. Lane.
Yeah, Dwight, I'm here with Zita Astravas, a longtime Liberal strategist. Now, Zita has worked with both Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and previous Liberal Premier Kathleen Wynne. So, Zita, I want to ask you, having worked with Kathleen Wynne, that was obviously a very different time for your party in provincial politics. What gives you the confidence that Bonnie Crombie is the right leader to bring you back to that place?
Bonnie Crombie has been a strong voice for Mississauga and for Ontarians for decades. She was in the House of Commons, she was mayor, and now she's Ontario Liberal leader. And she's been working tirelessly day by day, knocking on every door, going to NDP and Conservative ridings during this election. And we'll see what happens tonight. But she brings the energy, dedication, and really the interests of what Ontarians want to see is change in our healthcare system.
And speaking of going door to door, that's a little more challenging with the weather we've had recently. What has this snap election call in February, and a particularly bad February in some parts of Ontario, what has that done to the ability to campaign both out on the street and behind the scenes?
Ontarians are not used to having winter elections. It's been decades since we've seen one in the province. But our volunteers have shown up every day and still gone out, whether it's raining or if it's snowing or if it's icing, with our candidates and door knocking. Sometimes it's a bit challenging. You're sticking your sign into a snowbank rather than a lawn sign into the lawn. So, we all kind of smile about it and have a good time. We live in Canada after all, so we just adjust. But it has been tricky. Snap elections are always hard. I think the Conservatives made the decision for obvious reasons. But, the campaign came together, and every day went by full of dedicated volunteers, and we'll see the results.
Okay, thank you so much, Zita. Thank you. So you heard it there, Dwight. The Liberals are feeling good about their chances tonight with that healthcare-focused platform that Bonnie Cromby put so much emphasis on throughout this campaign.
Thank you, Lane, out there at Liberal HQ. We'll continue our tour. Head next to Farrell Morelli out in Guelph at Green Party headquarters.
Yeah, Dwight, as you can hear, the room is really filling up here, but I want to introduce you to a guest that we have here. It is Darren Elias. He's the communications director for the Greens. Darren, thanks so much for joining us here tonight. I want to ask you, first and foremost, what does success look like for the Ontario Greens tonight?
Yeah, we're really excited about tonight. I think there's a really good chance for us to grow a caucus. I was just down in Kitchener Centre earlier, the past couple of days, actually knocking on doors with Ashton Clancy, who we think is really well poised for re-election there. And then also up in Parry Sound Muskoka with Matt Richter, who's neck and neck with the Conservatives, and we really think he has a good chance to finish what he started in 2022, where he just fell a bit short, but the momentum up there has been feeling really good. There's a lot of excitement, and we think we can finish it.
I want to ask you about this riding of Parry Sound Muskoka. It has been a long-time PC riding, more than 20 years. An incumbent, a cabinet minister, Graydon Smith, is running. But we've seen Mike Schreiner spend a lot of time in this riding, 2 of the 4 final days of his campaign. How confident are you guys that you can actually flip this into a green riding tonight?
Yeah, well, our message has really been resonating there. One that focuses on supporting rural communities, especially in Parry Sound Muskoka. A lot of those communities have felt left behind by the Doug Ford government, who's really been focusing more so on the GTA. Our message of economic fairness, investing in healthcare, and supporting people that really need the help and that have felt left behind. So Matt's been really much a local champion in the riding. He's run a number of times, and he has a lot of respect in the community, and we think that can really push him over the finish line tonight, and we're excited to keep an eye on it.
It's the 6th time running this year, isn't it?
That's correct. He's a dedicated guy, very, very committed to his community, a local teacher, a local coach. He really understands what the community needs, and I think he can really advocate well at Queen's Park for his community and be their voice there. An independent champion who understands the nuances of the communities, and I think it's what that riding needs down at Queen's Park.
We'll have to see if 6th time is the charm for Matt Richter in Parry Sound Muskoka. Dwight, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Farah, and I will send it over to Rosie and the panel one last time before those polls close.
Yeah, and then we get really busy. Ashley, what is the thing you're watching for to know that, okay, things moving in the right direction? Is there one riding, one place? Is it Toronto? What is it?
I think it's Bonnie's seat in Mississauga, East Cooksville, and then some of those Toronto seats that David was talking about for sure.
Okay, how about you?
It's the border towns and the manufacturing sectors. Definitely Toronto in the north is always really important to the NDP.
And if you're losing in the north, is that a sign that things are heading to a bad place for you?
I think if we're losing in the southwest corridor,
yeah. Give me some of the
Toronto,
ridings we should watch. Windsor,
Niagara, Windsor, downtown Toronto, problems.
Okay, Vivek.
Eglinton Lawrence, Windsor West. I want to see what happens given all of the great progress that's been made over the last 30 or so days. I think there's going to be some interesting surprises tonight.
Tell me as we wait for the clock to tick down here, why does Doug Ford so insistent on a stronger mandate to take on President Trump? He has the mandate to do that, you could argue, and he has a majority, and he's been demonstrating that he can get things done.
I think his passion has really shone through from beginning to end of this campaign. When you look at what he is going for is a mandate under a different context. It is a context where there's a whole lot of stability economically, not just here, but abroad. And that context is the choice that people have in this election.
Do you think do you think this would have happened if Donald Trump wasn't there threatening tariffs? Would there have been a window for an election? Would there have been an argument for an election instead of going 15 months early?
What I know now is that this has definitely precipitated that. This has accelerated that thinking that this is a critical time to make sure people have a choice.
Ashley, quickly.
I'm sure they would have concocted another one because they've been telegraphing for 6 months that they wanted to go to an early election, and this became, a lovely and convenient cover, while at the same time playing games with what is the biggest economic threat we've seen, at least in my lifetime, to our country. So I think it was a really cynical pretense for an election.
Okay, well, we'll see whether the gamble paid off or not. Thank you all very much. We'll come back very soon. Dwight, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Rosie. We are just about 16 seconds away from polls closing. If you want to watch ASL interpretation of this show, you can find a stream on your YouTube page. Ontario Votes starts right now. 28 days in sub-zero temperatures, Ontario thrust into a rare winter election as hundreds of candidates knocked on doors to make their party's pitch for the future. A strong economy, affordability, healthcare, housing. Now, the pivotal moment. Facing threats from the White House and uncertainty in the nation's capital, tonight, Ontario votes. Good evening and welcome. We are live from the Canadian Broadcasting Centre in downtown Toronto. Most polls are now closed, and that means results will soon be flying in, and they will fly as votes in Ontario are counted by electronic tabulators. Our team ready to go. David Common is standing by, ready to bring you the latest results. He'll be covering all 124 ridings, identifying trends and uncovering any surprises as the night unfolds. A well-known face in our political coverage, Rosemary Barton, CBC's chief political correspondent, is here, and she's joined by our panelists, Ashley Chinati, Vivek Prabhu, and Marion Nader. Senior Queen's Park reporter, Mike Crawley, beside me here. He'll help us make sense of all of this and shed some light on what is to come. Now, as the results come in, you will see those numbers at the bottom of your screen begin to change. As vote totals are reported, that bar will tell you how many seats each party is leading or elected in, projected to be elected in. Our decision desk is watching those numbers very closely and will project a winner in each of the ridings. And as soon as they have seen enough of the overall vote come in, we will make a projection about Ontario's next government. All right, our reporters are in ridings around the province and at each of the party headquarters. Loretta Redekop is at the PC Party's campaign headquarters in the riding of Etobicoke North. Lane Harrison is standing by at the Liberal Party HQ out in Mississauga. And Dale Manuktuk is in downtown Toronto at the NDP base. And our Farah Morelli joins us from Guelph tonight at the headquarters for the Green Party. Let's check in first with Loretta Redekop at PC headquarters in Ford Nation, Etobicoke North.
Well, Dwight, it's still a pretty empty room here, but I'm told that all the volunteers from the PC campaign, they were told to keep working all the way up until 9 o'clock when the polls close. So they were just trying to get out that vote. And in terms of where PC leader Doug Ford is, I'm told he is at a hotel nearby. He's going to be watching the results there with his family. And then we expect him to come here a bit later. They are anticipating that will be around 10 p.m. But of course, we will see how this night plays out. You see the balloons behind me. They are expecting that this will be a victory party and that they'll be dropping those balloons when it is projected who wins this election. And what this would mean is that it would be a third straight win for Doug Ford. They're hoping for a third straight majority, something that hasn't happened since the 1950s in Ontario. All throughout this campaign, he tried to make this about the fight against U.S. President Donald Trump and tariffs. We saw that day after day, and we saw that with those hats that he came out with shortly before this campaign even started, saying Canada is not for sale, and he just continued that message all throughout this campaign. So we will see if that gamble to head to the polls early, if it was worth it for the PC party. Dwight?
Thank you for that, Lorenda. And remember, folks, to keep an eye on the bottom of your screen tonight. That's where you can keep track in real time of how your party is doing. That gives you the big picture of where that party is leading or elected in from our decision desk. So keep an eye on the bottom of your screen throughout the evening because it will tell you what is happening. All right, let's head out next to NDP headquarters in downtown Toronto, where we find our Dale Manuktuk. Dale.
Yeah, Dwight, I'm on the mezzanine of the Great Hall along Queen Street West. Supporters are just starting to pile in now. You can see them from this bird's eye view up here. Marit Stiles is watching results from a nearby hotel. Now, obviously, the goal is to become premier. We know that she's mentioned several times along this campaign trail that Doug Ford quit his job. I'm applying for that job, but the real fight she might be in is to hold on to that official opposition party status. We know that there has been been some support, according to the polls, for the Liberals that could threaten the NDP's position at Queen's Park. And Stiles, this is her first time as on the provincial campaign trail as party leader. She was voted in an uncontested race in 2023. She's really had to introduce herself to Ontarians, often mentioning, that she's a Newfoundlander who came to the great province of Ontario hoping to make things better. And her platform, her party's platform, has been about affordability, pitching a monthly grocery rebate. We're hearing some cheers right now, Dwight. I'll have to take a look. But that would be actually my face on the screen. I don't think that's that exciting. But, a lot of excitement in the room here, but also some anxiety, Dwight, because there are 4 Toronto ridings, 3 of them held by the NDP, that we won't get results for a while. And those are going to be 3 key seats that they're going to need to hold in order to maintain that official opposition party status, Dwight.
All right, thank you for that, Dale. As they're watching Dale out there at the Great Hall. We hear the Ford family is also watching as the results come in tonight. And we told you they would be coming in fast and furious. And look at the bottom of your screen already. 64, 21, 16, 2. Throughout the night, that's where you can keep score of how the parties are doing. And right now, we promised that we'd be coming in, David, fast and furious, and you would have them for us, and we're keeping that promise.
Yeah, indeed. They are coming fast and furious. So you see the bottom of the screen there. Those are early results. We are not yet making a projection about the winner, but that could come quite quickly given how quickly the results are coming. So let's get right to those first results that we're seeing right now, and they're coming in from multiple areas of the province. We are going to start in Davenport. Marit Stiles, the NDP leader there with a significant lead. You do not yet see a check mark anywhere on this screen. The check mark is when we are projecting someone is elected, not seeing it there yet, but Marit Stiles with a comfortable lead in what should be a comfortable riding for the NDP. Whitby, small lead there, 156 for the PCs in what was Lorne Coe's riding before, 4 of the 63 polls reporting. Let's go next to... There we go. Hamilton Centre, the NDP with a fairly comfortable lead. Interesting riding there because this was Sarah Jama's riding. She was elected as an NDP MPP, was tossed out of caucus, decided this time to run as an independent. That gamble at this early point anyway, not paying off for her. The PC's ahead in Hamilton Mountain. This is an area that's in great contention, but look at that lead there on the screen near the bottom left, just 49 votes. And as you see in the upper right, only 4 of the 38 polls reporting. So again, the place you go to vote, only 4 of them reporting right now. Look at Aisling Clancy, one of only 2 Green Party seats in the at dissolution. Kitchener Centre, she's got a very comfortable lead there right now. That's a good early sign for the Greens in this riding. Do we have one more here? Let's see. No, we don't. It's just back to me, and I don't know. Nobody's cheering for me like they did for Dale.
Just that good-looking guy standing by that big screen over there. Thank you for that, David. We'll be bugging you throughout the evening as you bring us these results. Mike Crawley, I feel like every time I look at the bottom of this screen, and I just did, there went from 73 to 76. Every time it refreshes, we're seeing some big numbers come in, and especially for the blue team.
Yeah, so Dwight, I want to talk about a big number. Mm-hmm. There are already 1 million votes counted in the system. So that is, what's that? That is 10,000 times the size of any poll that you're actually going to go and see during an election. And when you look at what the vote share is overall, we've got 43.5% for the PCs, 29.2% for the Liberals, 18.5% for the NDP. Now, if those numbers grow, back to you, Dwight.
Thank you. We'll check in with you after. We have some breaking news for you right now. The CBC News Decision Desk has looked at all the numbers, and they are ready to make a call. There it is, Ontario. The CBC is projecting a PC majority government, a rare three-peat, a feat not seen since back in 1959. Doug Ford said he needed a fresh mandate to deal with the economic threats to the Ontario economy, and Ontario voters have given it to him. Taking a look right now live at PC headquarters out in Ford Nation, Etobicoke. Big party expected there tonight. And Mike, as we look at these results and the call from our decision desk, no punishment for Doug Ford sending us to the polls early in the dead of winter. It appears this gamble is paying off.
Dwight, just how rare 3 majorities are. It's been 65 years since a party in Ontario was able to get 3 straight majorities. The CBC decision desk projecting that. Look, success in politics means winning elections, and by that measure, Doug Ford is now one of the most successful premiers in Ontario history. So, look, there's lots more to come tonight. Just how high is that seat count going to get? What's going to happen with that race for second place? There's some really interesting numbers going on there, too. But Doug Ford has done something that hasn't been done since the 1950s.
Let's get out to the victors' party right now. Lorenda Redekop is there at PC headquarters. Lorenda.
Hi, Dwight. Well, lots of big cheers when this happened. This is so fast to be projecting a majority government this quickly. People in the room, they saw the video of Doug Ford and his family watching the results from that hotel nearby. Lots of cheers already then. And then when the majority government was projected, and now you're hearing the cheers again here. Lots of excitement in this room. A third straight majority government for Doug Ford and the PCs. And now throughout the night, we're going to have to watch to see just how big that majority is and whether it is indeed bigger, something that would be unprecedented here in the province of Ontario. We're starting to see more people stream in. I mean, I had told you earlier that volunteers, they were trying to get out the vote right up until 9 p.m. when the polls closed. So really this room isn't that full just yet. I expect there will be a lot more people coming here. There is capacity for 1,100 people here. So we'll have to see what that looks like before Doug Ford comes to speak to this crowd. We are seeing a lot of people in those hats, those Canada is not for sale hats, the ones that Doug Ford really made famous when he was at that premier's meeting in Ottawa before he called this early election. And then they also used this as part of their campaign, really trying to latch on to that idea of fear against Donald Trump and the threat of tariffs against Canada. Seems, though, that right now that message really did work for Ontarians, and certainly a very happy crowd here at PC headquarters.
All right, thank you for that, Lorenda. We're going to watch those balloons come down behind you a little later on. I understand that we actually have the moment when Doug Ford found out that he was going to get projected for this majority tonight, so let's take a look at that. Watching with his family. The celebration starting early in the night for this. Taking a look there, we're going to go to David Common next to find out how they pulled this off tonight, David.
Yeah, and it is a big event, an epic event for the PCs in Ontario. How did they actually pull it off? We're going to start by looking at the actual votes themselves. We call the share of the vote. Here's how we know. 37.6% is the historic floor of what it has taken in Ontario to make a majority government. The PCs well above that. And in fact, if you look at that, they have built 2 percentage points on where they were back in 2022. In the last election, the Liberals also building. They're at almost 30% there in terms of the share of the vote. And that is, about 6 percentage points higher than where they were. The NDP, though, are down. They're just at 17.8%. That puts them down about 6% from where they were. How does this translate into seats? Because that, of course, is the big question. Here we take a look right now. Liberals up 7 at this point. The NDP are down 4, the PCs down 3. Now, we're still at an early stage of the evening. Lots of drama still to come, but that is a tale right there about how the Liberals are succeeding in many areas. Let's dive right into some of the ridings themselves. And we're going to start in Thunder Bay, Atikokan. Okay, the star there beside Kevin Holland's name means he is the incumbent in this riding, has a very significant lead, 3,300 votes over top of the NDP, with about a third of the polls reporting. You see in the upper right-hand corner there. We go on to our next riding, and that is Barry Springwater, Oro-Medonte. This is a riding that the PCs, if there was a weak riding anywhere in central Ontario, it was said to be Barry Springwater, Oro-Medonte. Well, 3,200 votes as a lead does not seem very weak to me at all. They have a significant lead. We don't yet see the check mark next to Doug Downey's name, but could well get there, the check mark indicating projection of elected. So a lead of just 68 in Mississauga, Erin Mills. This one's close. If you live in this riding, we're going to watch this very carefully as the vote continues there with 8 of 48 polls. Finally, I'm going to look. There's our check mark. Projected to be elected, Stéphane Sérazen in Glengarry, Prescott, Russell. The PC there, again, with a significant lead, 2,800 votes over his nearest competitor, the Liberal. And Dwight, that gives you a picture of how things are shaping up in Ontario right now, but lots more to come. Just because we're calling a government doesn't mean, we don't know who the official opposition will be yet. We don't yet know a whole bunch of things, and that is what we're paying attention to right now.
Busy night still ahead. Thank you for that, David. We'll be bringing you the results from your riding as the night goes on. And remember, you can watch that on the box, that bar at the bottom of your screen, where all of the results from the 124 ridings will cycle throughout the night. Rosie, tell us what you make of this moment for Ontario.
I mean, Mike talked about how this confirms Doug Ford's legacy as one of the most successful premiers in Ontario. It also confirms his legacy as one of the most successful politicians in the country right now, fighting against incumbency, which had taken out a number of other politicians over the course of the past 12 months or so. Big win, three-peat. Vivek, what are you thinking now?
This has launched Doug Ford into the pantheon of great premiers of Ontario.
Yep.
You look at Dalton McGuinty, Davis, Frost. You can put his name in that category now. You can look at this kind of win. I think you look at the stamina and the energy to go and take on another mandate. You look at two premiers who recently actually resigned saying that they do not want to, after COVID-19, take on another Trump administration and mandate. He's getting settled to go for another 4 years.
Okay, and while it is exciting and remarkable and only happened in 8 minutes, I will point out that we're only at 75 projected seats right now. The last vote, there were 82. He set the bar. He set the bar himself. It had to be a bigger majority. So if he doesn't get a bigger majority tonight, what does that tell you?
Rosemary, I think we're about, 11 minutes in, 12 minutes in?
16 minutes in.
Okay, so let's see where the night takes us. But I think that when you look at what Doug Ford has to do, it is under this new context. So let's see where the final number sits. But I think this majority government is a clear signal that the people want him laser focused on the economy.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that question. That's what we're going to say there. Marion, what do you make here of how the NDP is faring?
So, clearly it's still early.
Yep.
So, and there's a lot of dogfights that are still about to happen.
Yep.
And also a lot of the NDP seats are the ones that the polls are going to close. So we're not going to know till much later. However, of course, we want to hold the seats that we have and flip the other ones. But congratulations to the Conservatives for winning. But it also
well, you're full of grace.
Yeah.
You're full of grace, Mariam.
But let's be clear about something.
Yeah.
That this was a cynical, crass move to call a winter election, right, at the time when there's going to be low voter turnout. So, if there's going to be, success, or if there's going to be congratulation based on less people actually voted for,
which we don't know yet.
Which we don't know yet. But it looks like that.
That
is going to be a problem.
I the word cynical because I don't think it's cynical to give people a choice. I don't think it's cynical to say that democracy is probably the best way to decide who should govern our province. I would also say that national and international crises don't wait for the weather. So that is the reality that we've had to all face.
I think what it is cynical is the fact that seniors can't get to the polls, or people with medical conditions and disabilities. People are canvassing in minus 35. There's 25 centimeters of snow. I mean, these are significant issues, and it's not fair if people can't use their democratic right to actually get to the polls.
That's a point, but let's see what the turnout is. I think we have to wait and see that. And we have to recognize at least that the argument that Doug Ford made has worked, that people do believe that he needed a stronger, maybe not a stronger mandate, we'll see, but another mandate to take on Donald Trump. Ashley?
I mean, the voters are never wrong, as they say, and Doug Ford is back in power. But I think it will be interesting to see what turnout is and what percentage this plurality actually is. Because let's remember that governments in this country get elected not by necessarily a majority of voters, but because of the first past the post system, a plurality. So if he comes back and he has like 30 or 40%, then there is still a good chunk of the province who potentially didn't want him in power. And then that's where, you know, a stronger Liberal caucus, as we're seeing growing, the New Democrats, that's where we come in to really hold these guys to account. He's made some promises, and let's make sure that they actually do it. You know, it took him 7 years, but he suddenly hired a Liberal and came up with a plan to get people family doctors. Let's see that happen. There's a lot of
Jane
stuff
Philpott you're talking about there. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's going on in Ontario right now, and we're going to need a strong opposition more than ever because we have seen how this government operates when they're left unchecked, and it's a series of billion-dollar scandals and giveaways to rich friends and insiders.
Okay, and we will see how big the opposition is, who forms official opposition, as David said. All those factors still there, and we'll see how big the majority is, Vivek, and we'll come back and revisit that question. Thank you all very much. Dwight, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Rosie. Right now, we want to take a look at how the party leaders are doing in their respective ridings and their races. We will start with Doug Ford out in Etobicoke North, if we can get that up to see how he's doing in that riding right now, and already projected to win there. He is up by, look at that, more than 6,000 votes. Doug Ford won by about 55% the last time out. He was expected to take Etobicoke North easily, and he is the victor there tonight. Let's see how Marit Stiles is doing down in Davenport, and there you go. Good news for them. She also has a sizable lead, almost 8,000 votes there in the downtown Toronto riding of Davenport, also an expected win. And look at that. The CBC desk is also projecting that Mike Schreiner will win his riding out there in Guelph. A sizable lead heading towards 12,000 right now. You know, they call him the conscience of Queen's Park, People Before Fairness. Now, this is very interesting. Look at this. Right now, Sylvia Galtieri is ahead of the Liberal leader out in Mississauga, East Cooksville. She needs a seat in the legislature. They have targeted this. The PCs targeted it to try to take her out. The Liberals targeted it because she's been mayor there for 10 years, Mike. She's very popular. She was an MP before in that. She's from Mississauga. That is her country. Right now, she is down in that riding.
So, Dwight, yeah, clearly a good night for Doug Ford, Marit Stiles, Mike Schreiner back in the legislature, all of them. That race in Mississauga East Cooksville is really quite something. So Bonnie Crombie is up against Patrick Brown's mother-in-law.
Yes.
Patrick Brown, former leader of the Ontario PC party, the current mayor of Brampton, and no love lost between Patrick Brown and Bonnie Crombie. The PCs really put a bunch of resources into trying to win that riding. There's a couple of other interesting things that I'm noticing here, Dwight.
Yes.
You know, look at that 76 number for the PCs. And not to take away from this victory, yes, it's a third straight majority, but that number, as it stands right now, is fewer seats than Doug Ford had in the legislature when they called this election.
Yes.
And if that's how things end up, that is going to raise some interesting questions about that strategy. The other numbers that are just wild here, if you look at it, look at the number of NDP seats in which they're leading or projected to be elected. And look at the Liberals and compare that with the size of their share of the vote. It's inverse. So it's really something about the NDP's, what they call the vote efficiency. So lots still to come here. Lots of interesting stuff.
Can I ask Mike a quick question?
Of course.
If Bonnie Crombie doesn't pull off her own seat, but does grow the caucus size for the Liberals and gets them official party status, which is 12 seats, can she hang on, or does someone give up their seat for her? Like what in that
Stephen
scenario?
Del Duca last time he just left and he just
in that scenario what happens?
Okay, so all the Liberals that I talked to, and Ashley will probably want to jump in on that. They said that there's basically 3 bars for the Liberals. 1, do they get to official party status, 12 seats, and all the resources that brings? Do they make it to official opposition status? That was another one. Third thing, does Bonnie Crombie win her seat? So if they only achieve one of those 3 things, there's going to be a lot of questions asked. On the other hand, I've also heard from the Liberals that I've been talking to in the last few days that there's not a ton of appetite to go through yet another leadership race. This party's been through so much in the last 7 years. But there might still be some people who are coming after Bonnie Crombie with the knives out.
I'll let Ashley respond.
From the Liberal on the panel.
What do you think?
I think that, you know, if these numbers hold and we see some swing and we get party status back, there's still a lot of votes to be counted in Bonnie's riding. But let's say hypothetically she doesn't win her seat. I don't think that there would be knives coming from anybody who's particularly serious member of the party. There are people who who are always going to have a knife out because they feel like their chosen person wasn't the winner the last time around. But we do need some stability, and we do need growth in the right direction. And I think that is what we've seen with an energetic campaigner and a targeted message from Bonnie Crombie. And she has proven herself to be a really strong leader in this campaign.
So if you can't win in Mississauga and you were the mayor of Mississauga, that is not a huge endorsement though, for the leader either, right?
I think we'll have to see what turns out in Mississauga, and there will be questions. But I think if she's brought the party back to party status, and then maybe a couple cushion seats on top of that, there is a strong argument to be made for her to continue that momentum and to grow the party.
And she would want to, you think?
I think that would be a question for Bonnie, but I think she would want to because she's got some great some great momentum going on.
Okay, we'll keep our eyes on this part of the storyline. Lots of good, interesting storylines.
The drama is here. Thank you for this, Rosie. Those tariff threats a big deal in Steeltown, and I understand that's where David is taking us next.
Yeah, lots of things to watch out for. I mean, we're watching Bonnie Crombie. Absolutely, does she win that riding? But that is a big storyline. There are a number of them going on in places right across the province, and I want to dive into that right now. Here we go, Hamilton Mountain. Okay, the PCs had targeted this riding, and it was an open riding. At this point, they have a considerable lead with 24 of the 38 polls reporting over the Liberal candidate, one that we're going to continue to watch, but a considerable lead in a riding that they had targeted. We go to, now this is fascinating. This is something else. Haldimand, Norfolk. This doesn't happen, what you're seeing here. And oh my goodness, look at the lead for Bobby Ann Brady. Okay, here's the story. She is an independent. This does not happen. It doesn't happen that an independent wins in this province or in this country. And she's done it twice now, projected to be elected. And with a lead, they love her there. 15,000. You don't see that kind of lead almost anywhere else in the province. Again, about half of the polls reporting, but there is some drama. Okay, let's go to another really close riding. Every single election, federally and provincially. Christine Hogarth, you see the star beside her name. That means she's the incumbent. She's a cabinet minister in Doug Ford's government. But right now she is down to the Liberals. Lee Fairclough, a Health Care executive, and she has a considerable lead there, only about coming up close to half of the polls reporting. But that is a considerable lead. One we'll watch for. No check mark there yet. But Don Valley North. This helps explain where the Liberals are doing better, okay, where they've been able to pick up some seats. So right now, they have another considerable lead in Don Valley North. The PCs wanted this. Vincent Coe, you see the star beside his name. He used to be the PC cabinet, part of the PC caucus, got kicked out over interference allegations. Now, the PCs tried to run someone, tried to keep that riding. At this point, that's not working. All right, one more riding do we have? Oh my goodness. A lead of 135. That is nothing. They're going to be counting and counting and counting to watch out to see what happens in York South-Weston. 6,600 votes for Mohammed Firan at this point, but he's just barely edging out the Liberal candidate. This is going to be one that's going to take some time to count. We'll be watching that as the electoral makeup of the province takes shape. Still lots of drama.
Yes, there is. Thank you for that, David. Mike, we watched and read a lot of your coverage this election, and during the campaign, there was bigger mandate, right? We want more seats. We want to give us a bigger mandate. Well, what do you think of that with what's happening right now?
So Dwight, at the beginning of the campaign, the PCs were told in a closed-door session with caucus and all the candidates that they had the potential to hit 90 seats or even potentially above 90 seats. So I kind of did the math. I looked at, talked to people that know about the stuff of what ridings they're targeting. So on my computer, I've got this list of 18 seats that the PCs were looking to gain, to basically take away from the NDP, from the Liberals, and from that independent, Bobby Ann Brady. Of those 18 seats, the PCs are leading currently in only one of them. Wow. So they are not getting that extra, bunch of seats that they were thinking that they were going to get.
That's what this was all about. Yeah. All right, thank you for that, Mike. You know who is doing better than expected right now? It looks like the NDP. Let's head out to NDP headquarters and Dale Manukduk.
Yeah, Dwight, there's been a lot of cheers behind me, below me, where a lot of the supporters are. Janelle Brady, the Ontario NDP president, she just got on stage, announced a round of who they say are elected candidates of the party, including, obviously, leader Maura Stiles. I know we have her as a projected winner right now, but they announced her here as the winner of Davenport. And so there are a lot of cheers back there. I was speaking to Melanie Richer, NDP strategist, and she was saying if things hold as is, that's a good night for the NDP. You know, you never want to lose seats, but given the polling, the storylines and narratives that were out there throughout this 4-week snap election cycle, that if they were able to, you know, maintain opposition party status and, you know, they still have a number of seats to go, including those 3 that the NDP held in from the previous election that we're still waiting on results from. So from all accounts, this is a very good night for the NDP. And we're still waiting on Maura Stiles to arrive here.
Thank you for that, Dale. Well, as you're looking at the numbers that we told you at the bottom of your screen, that is the race right there. And you see the PCs at 78, NDP at 24. That other number right there for the Liberals, a little worrying because that's the cutoff there, Rosie. That's the point of official party status for the Liberals. And right now, they're just right there.
Yeah, and that is important, as David talked about earlier, because you get additional funds, you get resources, and you really can play ball inside Queen's Park. That's right, and it allows you to really hold the government to account in a substantive way. I was just looking for the last quote I had from Doug Ford about majority and what it would mean to him, because I have to come back to this already. I'm sorry, Vivek, but at dissolution, you guys had 79 seats. The last vote was 82 seats. So let's take the last election as the bar, right? And we're still at 78. And again, a three-peat majority, nothing to sneeze at. But the bar was set by the Premier himself. And so for me, that's the measure stick, right? It's not whether you got the majority or not. It's whether you got the bigger majority to outlive and outlast Donald Trump, was what he said.
The Premier set expectations for himself to make sure to motivate the base, to get out there, to make sure that he gets the mandate that he needs to be able to take on Donald Trump and whatever economic forces that are both domestic as well as external to Ontario. I would say this, it is about a renewed mandate in that context. You see these numbers, and I'm still going to wait and see how it pans out, but this is very much that. I would also look at the fact that the NDP have also, they're still from dissolution in a lesser state.
Yes, they are too.
As well, so it's something to also look at. Still early though, right?
Well, there's 5 seats, as we've been talking about, that have those delays still, so that will
NDP seats.
That will factor in. But that is also true. If I'm going to beat up on Vivek a little bit here, I have to do it to you too. Sure. You know, this does mean that that potentially something has happened. We'll see as the night unfolds. But if you end up with fewer seats, how concerned are you about the message that sends then?
So here's the interesting thing about the math when we first came in, is that the Liberals only had 9 seats going in, and the Tories had 70 some. So if anybody was to grow, they were going to pull from the NDP. So they had to fight 2 fronts.
Yes.
Hoping that keeping all those fights from the left and from the right, and with Doug Ford throwing everything he's got into trying to take those seats. You know, this is a party that really punched above its weight, and it was Maura's first election. Of course, it's still early. They want to see more, and if there's, you know, a couple that are lost, hopefully there's a couple that it's gained. It's going to be tough. But I think the story and the narrative is also interesting, is that if Doug Ford called an election that cost $189 million and didn't get the mandate that he wanted, isn't this then also telling about him and the way he is governed, and you know, how the people of Ontario are also rejecting Doug Ford and the Conservatives of how their
Ashley, and then I'll let Vivek back in.
Yeah, I do think that's a really interesting premise to explore, because there was this idea that he needed this super majority to, you know, to take on this super threat from Donald Trump. And if we end up in a place where what Doug Ford has accomplished with this election is to give the Ontario Liberal Party party status and more resources at Queen's Park. Well, that's, you know, I'll take that.
With you,
I'll take that at the end of the day. But I actually still think for the good of the province, it would have been better for us to have stability and had MPPs at Queen's Park during this crisis working together. You know, all three opposition party leaders were clear that they wanted to work with the government on this crisis instead of going into an election. And we're here, and it's happened, and we're going to go back, and folks need to work together because this is an existential threat to our economy. But I do think there's an interesting irony there if Doug Ford ends up losing a couple cabinet ministers and we end up getting you know, quite a bit more resources at Queen's Park to do a better job at opposing his government.
If it's a status quo after $189 million in a winter and you've been fighting for this is going to be about tariffs, this is really about you just saving your own job.
Civic?
I will never, ever, ever say it was wrong to give voters a choice. I think the message that it sends is that when you look at the polls right now, when you look at the results, in a renewed mandate to take on Donald Trump for 4 years, it gives the certainty that my fantastic colleagues here are talking about for 4 years, for business, for people who have anxiety about their jobs, about what to expect over the next 4 years, to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump year for year to really match that mandate length.
How do we believe he's not going to call another election in 2.5 years? Because he had a 4-year mandate and he didn't use it. So I don't really know how anybody's supposed to take you know, that mandate argument from Doug Ford seriously when he didn't live out his last mandate. You know, is he going to stick around for 4 years? Is he going to, you know, get this mandate and then take off before the RCMP finish their investigation? Like, there's so many questions, right? The list of broken promises from this premier, you know, is pretty long. And even if you look at the overall numbers tonight, you know, 40-something%, it's a really solid plurality, but it's not the majority of people in this province. And so there's a strong job for the opposition over the next 4 years to make sure that he is held account for so many of the things he has told this province he would do and then not done or backtracked on.
But he does have it. He has the majority, and he is going to have to deal now with Donald Trump and tariffs that could come as soon as Tuesday. So he's going to have to face that reality whether he wants to or not. I'm going to send things back to Dwight. We'll come back to everybody here. Dwight?
All right, thank you for that. We're about to make another call here. We have some breaking news for you right now. The CBC News Decision Desk has been crunching the numbers and is ready to make another projection. And that will be Ontario's official opposition will once again be formed by the New Democrats. Marit Stiles hanging on to enough seats to come second. Let's take a look at NDP headquarters in downtown Toronto. Mike, what do you make of this moment? I don't think they realize it yet.
Yeah, Dwight, look, this is really good news for the New Democrats. You know, if they realize that there was, you know, no chance that they had of winning this election, but the fact that they are holding on to official opposition status, the fact that they've got as many seats as they do, that's a real credit to Marit Stiles. You know, I think there were some questions being thrown around about her campaign and when their polling numbers were not looking very good, but clearly they ran a smart campaign. They put the resources into the right places to be able to win seats, because that's what really matters. So she's got to be really pleased with the results tonight.
That's what it's all about, winning those seats. Let's head over to Dale Manuknuk at NDP headquarters. And I think they're realizing now because I can hear the cheering there, Dale.
That's exactly. You can hear these chants of NDP, Dwight. They just put on our broadcast, actually, where it lists Marit Stiles, the NDP, as the official opposition. And these chants are going really strong. I have Melanie Richer here with me, NDP strategist. Melanie, big call right now for the official opposition party.
Totally, and you know, a lot of what people were saying may not happen this time. Folks kept talking about how it was potentially going to be a Liberal in the official opposition. So seeing the NDP keep it, I think is really good news for Marit and her team.
We've talked about the challenges of trying to flip blue seats to orange, but also fend off the Liberals. So how much of a challenge was that during this campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to win, if you want to be premier, you got to go after the premier seats. You got to grow your share of the vote, right? So you saw during the campaign, that's what Marit spent most of her time doing, is going after those seats. And it does look like there may be a few seats that are really close in. I think in Sault Ste. Marie we're behind by 67 votes, which would be a massive gain for the NDP. Obviously, you want to keep your seats, so fending off the Liberals are important. But if you want to win, you got to go after the blue seats, and that's what we saw her do this campaign.
That's Melanie Richer, NDP strategist. You can hear these chants of NDP going again. We are still waiting for Marit Stiles to walk into this building and give a speech, and we're going to bring you that as soon as it happens.
Dale Manaknan out at a happy NDP headquarters right now. When we watched the debate that David Common moderated, we heard Bonnie Crombie make an appeal directly to NDP voters to come to her party. David, we're looking at the seats tonight. How is that working out?
We certainly are, Dwight. You know, a lot of people may be looking at the panel and seeing the share of vote and saying, what's going on here? Why is it that the NDP have so much less vote but end up forming the official opposition and getting that many more seats? Here's what I'm talking about. Okay, when you look at the share of the vote, the Liberals have the second most number of votes after the PC's 43.4% of the vote. The NDP down at 18.4%. But how does that translate into seats? Here's where we take a look at the actual seat change. Okay, but you know, if you look at the bottom of the screen there, you are seeing that they have, so what's going on? Basically, the NDP vote is much more concentrated, and that includes in a place like Hamilton Centre. They just concentrate a lot more of their vote. It's not province-wide. They've been able to be projected to be elected in that riding. This is one of those ridings that we were not, you know, could have been at play for the PCs. Also, London North Centre projected to be elected for the NDP. This was not a given, and in fact, projected to be elected in the 3 London ridings that they held from 2022. That was not a given when we entered this election campaign. So this is absolutely an NDP win. We'll also go to Windsor West, another one of these ridings. Remember, Doug Ford started his campaign in Windsor West. His Minister of Labour said, "We're coming for you, Lisa Gretzky." Well, they tried. Doesn't seem to have worked. All right, we're going to look inside Toronto now. Toronto St. Paul's television anchor Stephanie Smythe projected to be elected there. She's a Liberal. That is one of the pickups because the NDP incumbent there, Jill Andrew, down in votes and will not at this point be likely returning to Queen's Park. We're also looking in the north, Thunder Bay, Superior North. 2,000 vote lead there for Elise Vajoie, who is projected to be elected over the PCs. You know, these are all ridings that the PCs had tried to target or that the Liberals had tried to target to take from the NDP. And I think by my count, in only one of those cases did it work.
Wow, certainly an efficient vote tonight for the NDP. Let's head back over to Rosie for her thoughts on all of this.
Some of those ridings are pretty interesting because those are the very ridings that are very concerned. Windsor West, pretty concerned about Donald Trump's tariffs, and that did not pay off for Donald Trump. Would you like to reenact your reaction to getting official opposition? No. I've never seen someone so happy to come in second.
It was a good sigh of relief. It was. I mean, you know, I'm happy for them. I mean, they worked really hard.
Yeah.
And they pulled the vote, and you know, they had boots on the ground, and so that was really great. Again, we're still hoping for that number to continue to go up, but you know, losing Jill was a bit tough. But here's the thing: is that Doug Ford was laser focused on the border, the border corridor, and the manufacturing sector. You know, and he had the resources to go in, and you know, for the NDP to hold them off, that is a very strong victory.
And Ontario North too, which does flip blue and orange. The fact that you can hold there as well.
Yes, and also because it used to be red, and so I think that the North is very important, and the fact that they do it, they had a strong ground game. They were able to pull the vote. And New Democrats are very good at being able to get their vote out.
So what is going on, Ashley, with the Liberals? Are you you have a bigger percentage of the vote? You have fewer seats, considerably fewer seats. Is that the way the vote is splitting? Is that vote efficiency? How do you explain that to your party?
I think it is a bit of vote efficiency, the way things are splitting. It's the number of boots on the ground, right? Because when you have the NDP has these historic, really strong union relationships that really help them get a lot of boots out on the ground when they know they have to hold a riding, and they'll pour resources into it. And then, of course, the Conservatives being government have that. And I think that this has been a challenge for us. Last election, we had 1 million more votes than the NDP.
Yeah.
We're looking significantly ahead of them again tonight. You know, we're looking at 29.5% so far of the vote, but nowhere near a third of the seats. So I think there is a conversation to continue to be had among Liberals about how we make our vote more efficient. I think it's something we've been talking about for about 7 years now in Ontario, and we clearly need to keep talking about it. But I think that our organizers have done an excellent job on holding the seats that we had and on making some important gains. And there's a lot of ridings to watch that we're still keeping an eye on that will make a difference on how comfortable we can feel about that party status that we're sitting at right now.
Yeah, party status would matter.
Is a massive step for us. You know, I don't think people realize, you know, if you don't live in the political world, I don't think you realize what a difference that is on what your resources are, right? Like we've been essentially a series of MPP offices that like decide to be friends and help each other, as opposed to the resources of having like a caucus bureau and set number of questions and question period. Like that hump over into party status is a massive win for the party. And I think it comes on the force of Bonnie Cromby's personality and the race that she's won.
We'll see, because she still hasn't won her own seat last I checked.
I keep
so
refreshing the page pretty frantically.
Could be a very awkward evening for you, Ashley. Last word to you, Vivek, just on those couple of ridings that the NDP kept, Windsor West, that one in Thunder Bay. What does that say? That those places where, as David pointed out, Doug Ford and his ministers said, we're coming, was it too ambitious to go after those, or were those places where it was at least worth an effort, even if you didn't get it?
It's absolutely worth the effort. I think reaching Ontarians across the province is always worth the effort. In this case, I know that the message did resonate, but we're starting to see that as the vote totals come in, I think there's still work to do. It's very clear that in terms of a result, it is about getting back to work and making sure that we're focused on these issues. When you look at the PC number and the NDP retaining official opposition status, when you look at the ballot box questions that both were presented, slightly different, but very much about affordability, the economy, those issues. It's very clear that that is top of the agenda and top of mind for voters across the province.
Okay, we'll take a little break and we'll come back. Over to you, Dwight.
Thank you for that. And Vivek, help me out there by mentioning it again. Keep an eye on the bottom of your screen. That's where you can keep track of how everybody's doing tonight, where your party's leading and projecting. Those are all the seats that they're leading or projected to win so far tonight. One of the numbers we're looking at the bottom of the screen right now is at 13, right? Because the Liberals are just flirting with the party status. They need 12. They're at 13. If they can hold on to that, they have it again.
Yeah, and Dwight, I'm glad that Ashley talked about the resources. One of the things that the Liberals have said to me is that having that official party status and the resources that it gives them helps you prepare for the next election.
Yep.
It helps give you basically a professional team around you. And there's some optimism here possibly for the Liberals on this. So you see they're leading or projected to be elected in 13 seats.
Yes.
One of them is very, very close. They're leading in Ajax by a really slim margin, 330 seats.
Wow.
330 votes. So, that one's touch and go for sure. The good news here for the Liberals is there's another seat that we don't have any results from, and it's Orleans. And Orleans has historically been one of the safest Liberal seats in all of Ontario. So the Liberals may be able to breathe a little easier on that. However, Bonnie Cromby is, that one has still not been decided.
That's exactly where we're heading next, out to Liberal Party headquarters. Lane is standing by out there. Lane Harrison, how are they feeling with these numbers that have come in so far?
Dwight, it's the mood is low in the room here. As you can probably see behind me, I'm not sure if you can, but it's pretty sparsely populated in this room. The people who are here are mostly huddled close to some of the screens where they are watching the results come in. We've heard a few cheers when some other stations called or projected that some Liberals were going to win their ridings. I won't mention who just yet because I don't think that our decision desk has called those ridings. But those were kind of the only bright spots. I mean, one tough moment in here was when we did a whip around of where the leaders stood. I've got a clear vantage point to a table where both Bonnie Cromby's press secretary and chief of staff were standing at the time. I was watching them pretty closely as Cromby came up on screen, and it showed that she was trailing. They both looked at each other, said nothing, and then looked back at the screen. So it is obviously not not the night that they were hoping for. I mean, now, you know, we're on the edge, they're on the edge of that official party status. So that is something that is one bright spot, I guess, in this room. But if you were in this room tonight, like I have been, you would not think that there have been any bright spots for the Liberals here tonight. We are unsure about when Bonnie Crombie is going to speak. We're trying to get information on if or when that will happen. We know that she is in here and she is watching these results. Like everybody else, some of her top staff have disappeared from the room here, so I'm not sure if they're with her or what's happening behind the scenes for the Liberals, but it is really obviously, Dwight, not the night that people were hoping for. I've seen just one solemn hug so far, and not a lot of smiles in this room in Mississauga tonight, Dwight.
All right, we will check back with you to see if we do hear from Bonnie Crombie at some point there. Mike, sounds like you have something to say, sir.
Yeah, Dwight, I'm getting texts from Liberal sources who are saying the mayor of Mississauga should be able to win her seat and deliver additional seats in Mississauga. So that's coming from a Liberal.
Some of that too, I should say. That I also put that question that I put to you, actually, about whether Bonnie Crombie can stick around if she can't win her seat. I am not sure that the answer is a resounding yes from Liberals, and I am not sure that they are happy with what has happened, even if the bar was very low. It is very possible that Bonnie Crombie may have to wear this, especially if she can't win.
You know, I think one of the things that the Liberal campaign is going to try to go and say is that, well, the Ontario Liberals had the disadvantage of the federal Liberal leadership race pulling, resources away from them. You might also get this sense that the Ontario Liberals don't want to go through yet another leadership race. Just the hassle factor, the cost involved in all of that. And so, there may be those kind of two different factors being weighed as to whether Bonnie Crombie survives.
Though I think if you start to blame the Liberal brand, you would be making a mistake right now, because the Liberal brand in all federal polls is pulling back up, and we saw Bonnie Crombie at the last minute endorse Mark Carney as an attempt to attach herself to that bit of momentum, and that doesn't seem to have done anything for her there.
And one just last quick thought is that the Ontario Liberal campaign team are some folks who was directed by a person who was in her first full provincial campaign, and it's a tough job to try to do, going up against, Corey Tenike leading that campaign for the PCs, an incredibly experienced campaigner, and the person who was supposed to be the campaign chair for the Ontario Liberals became Chrystia Freeland's campaign director in the federal leadership.
Can I jump in one more time?
All right, one more, because I'm getting out to
just because the Prime Minister has issued a press release, so I have that little piece of Ottawa information, congratulating Doug Ford and the Progressive Conservative Party on their win. And he goes on to say in his statement, "At this crucial time, we must work together to defend Canadian interests, protect workers and businesses, and grow our economy. This includes making progress on the top-of-mind priorities of Ontarians and all Canadians, creating good-paying jobs, building more homes, investing in healthcare and affordable childcare." So very much reiterating sort of what Doug Ford's whole point was, right, about this election, and obviously showing that he's ready to get back to work with Doug Ford as Premier.
And thank you for bringing that to us from the PM. All right, we promised you drama tonight, and the Liberal leader, maybe not winning her race, is some drama, but David Common has even more drama for us with some of these tight races you're looking at, David.
There are some very tight races that are still underway. I just want to help you decode one thing that we see here. Seats to come, which is in near the bottom right corner of your screen. There are 5 of them there. The reason why they are still to come is because there were delays at some of the polling stations, and so Elections Ontario has held back the results for a number of them, including King Vaughan, Orleans, 2 ridings where they're not going to report results until 11 p.m. So we're still more than an hour away, 11 p.m. Eastern time. We do have 2 time zones in this province. We often forget that, but hello to the people of Kenora, who are an hour behind us here in our Toronto studio. Okay, let's get to those 2 close to call ridings, and we're going to start in the far north. This is Mushkegowuk, James Bay. There is a lead, barely, of 20 for the PC there, ahead of the incumbent NDP. 18 of the 31 polls reporting, if you ever need an excuse for saying, does it matter if I go and vote? This is the proof right here of, it matters when you vote, because your vote can turn elections in places like this. Interesting little note about Mushkegowuk, James Bay. Largest riding in the entire province, 500 times the size of the city of Toronto. Okay, let's move on to our next riding, and that is Mississauga Erin Mills. Woo, really tight lead there, 39, the incumbent PC in a fight to keep that over the Liberal. One of those races that had been targeted, of course, in Mississauga by Bonnie Crombie, as we've all been saying, once the mayor of Mississauga, maybe not leading in her own riding, but currently not leading in Mississauga Erin Mills either. Okay, we're on to the next one. Sault Ste. Marie, the PC candidate, open race here, no incumbent, a lead of just 112. So another one of these very close ones. And Sault Ste. Marie, of course, very connected to, a lot of minerals and other things, big nickel and everything that, well, that's Sudbury, but a lot of mineral extraction and steel, of course, Algoma Steel there, and lots of concern when you talk about Donald Trump tariffs in a place like that. All right, Dwight, back to you now.
Thank you for that, David. And you heard, David, that's why it's so important for you to vote. If you look at those tight races, one's 20, one's 39, very important to get out and vote. Look at the bottom of your screen now. Those are the numbers that you need to keep track of, how your party's doing in real time. The Greens have got 2 seats projected to win. That was what was expected tonight. They were hoping to get 3. Let's check out Farah Morelli, who was out at the Green HQ out in Guelph. Farah.
Yeah, Dwight, as you can feel or hear in this room, a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement. That's because in just a few minutes, I'm told that leader Mike Schreiner will be coming out to make a speech in what is a decisive victory for him tonight. It was a decisive victory for him in 2018. It was a decisive victory for him in 2022. Certainly one for him tonight. And he has something to celebrate. We now know or projecting that Ashlyn Clancy in the riding of Kitchener Centre will also be going to Queen's Park. So, as you said, 2 Greens returning to Queen's Park. What is going to be a disappointment, though, for the Greens is this riding of Parry Sound Muskoka. We are projecting that the PC candidate, Graydon Smith, and this is with 86 of the 103 polls reporting, will defeat the Green candidate. And remember, that was a riding that the Greens really, really, really hoped to flip Green. They spent a lot of time and resources there. But for now, Dwight, a lot of excitement in the room. We're waiting to hear from Mike Schreiner on his victory tonight and the victory of really holding on to these 2 seats that they wanted to.
Thank you very much, Farah. We're going to head out to Robin Miller in Ottawa Centre, as she has the winner in that riding.
That's right, Dwight. Lots of excitement here in Ottawa Centre, where CBC is projecting an NDP seat for Katherine McKenny, a very well-known name in this city, former city councillor, mayoral candidate, and now MPP for Ottawa Centre. Katherine, congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's pretty exciting.
How are you feeling in this moment?
A lot of relief. You know, you work hard. You go to the doors, day in, day out. You talk to people. It always felt good. We were getting good reception, but you want the results in, and now we have them.
NDP also being projected as the official opposition again. How are you feeling about that?
You know what? I am so happy, but I knew when I was talking to people that people want a new way of responding to our needs, whether it's housing or transit or for renters. Really, people are looking for new ideas, and this is what our campaign brought to people, was new, bold ideas. And I think that, tonight we see that we were rewarded for that.
How are you going to translate those ideas into action at Queen's Park, dealing with another majority government for the PC?
Absolutely. Well, you know what? There are ways of working in a majority government. I've learned that through my time as council, that you can work across party lines. You can, make those small incremental changes. And I've often said that if you don't need to take credit for all of the work, you can get things done. And I will go every day and make sure that we are, pushing for better transit funding, pushing for better housing, and just sharing the ideas that I know will work.
You said in your speech there a few minutes ago that tonight's vote showcased that people in Ottawa Centre want to embrace, I think you said, love and hope. What do you mean by that?
We are in a time, we're seeing it, where there is a backlash against newcomers, against queer, trans people. And I think that tonight's results show that Ottawa Centre is a place where others will want to compare themselves to. This is a place where we embrace diversity and we embrace each other.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Dwight, that is the new NDP MP projected for Ottawa Centre, Katherine McKenny. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much for that. And as we look at those numbers for the NDP at 25, 14 now for the Liberals, 2 for the Greens, and 1 independent. And the real number there, Rosie, is that 77, because throughout this campaign, all we were hearing, this is about a bigger 4-year mandate, and it's supposed to be a bigger mandate than the one currently.
Yeah, and I want to bring in the panel, but I do want to give a moment to Doug Ford just to think about what he has done here. Again, probably not the bar that he had set for himself at 77. We'll see if it goes up and down a little bit more. But the moment, and I know the panel thinks it was cynical, but it was also good politics, right? To see a moment, a window to call an election that you didn't have to call, to see a vacuum in Ottawa with a prime minister who was stepping down, to be chair of the Council of the Federation, so chair of all the premiers, step into that leadership role, and see that there was an opportunity here to take advantage of an existential moment in this country's history and put yourself forward to try and be, you know, the savior, at least for Ontario.
It sounds like a great strategy.
Yeah, and it paid off. However limited it is in terms of what Doug Ford can actually do tomorrow and the next day and the next day. We know he's promised as much as $40 billion to help support Ontario, but he certainly can't do the kinds of things that a prime minister can do, right? Exactly. And that's really where...
That's why he's meeting with governors.
That's right,
Trump,
and that's the difference and the limitations. But it almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter because Ontarians, like so many Canadians, so seized with this issue of Donald Trump that they were willing to give him an opportunity to continue in that role. I think Mike wants to jump in there. Sure.
I mean, a majority is a majority is a majority, and you have a majority. Doug Ford is going to have a majority for another 4 years if that's how long he wants to last. Actually, 4 and change because he doesn't actually have to call an election until June of 2029 under the law. And it's going to be interesting to see what he does with that majority. Does he feel that this has given him the mandate to do things like build that tunnel under the 401 that he has promised? What does he actually do also within the problems in the health system? It's a majority, and in a parliamentary system, when you have that majority, you have pretty much unchecked power, really, to implement your agenda.
What do you think, Vivek? I mean, just to talk about the timing, the opportunity that I know everyone else thinks was cynical, but it was also when you are making calculations about extending the life of your own government and your power, and you see, potential vacuums of power, weaknesses, opportunities, and you take all those things into account. Tell me how now you think Doug Ford has to live up to the expectations that he has put in terms of his response to Donald Trump, right?
It's a great question. I think when you look at the responsibility, it is a majority, and as Mike said, a majority is a majority is a majority, and the responsibilities that come with that. I think the question around, does he have the ability to execute on his agenda? Absolutely, across the board. You look at the work that he's been doing, I think that's an endorsement of that work, of the last 2 mandates, I think growing in strength. You see the momentum even during that campaign when it came to union endorsements, day after day after day, in terms of building a large coalition. He will need that to be able to stand up to those forces abroad.
So just to say, I mean, again, it was politically crass, and it was a gamble, and it worked. God bless. And yeah, it's politics. That's what it is.
That's what you do.
And that's what you do. So the union endorsements, okay, but he's got union endorsements because he was going after NDP seats, right? So I mean, if you peel out the layers and really look at it, but also since he didn't get the majority and the mandate that he asked for, does this mean that he can't go through with what he said he was going to do?
Okay, well, we'll talk more. I want to throw it back to Dwight though, because the Green Party.
We can see. Thank you for that, Rosie. Well, we just had it there. We just saw the Green Party leader walking in. There he is, the man they call the conscience of Queen's Park, part of their slogan, people for profits. I wonder if he's heading right to the podium to talk. Let's follow along, see if he is, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Schreiner is an incredibly strong communicator. I mean, us reporters at Queen's Park love him because the man is able to really say things in pithy ways. He's quite smart. He's got some interesting policies. He will probably be a little bit disappointed that he wasn't able to increase
to get that third
the number of seats that they have there. But he never set out to be premier. That was never something that he claimed he was going to be able to do.
Thank you, everyone.
Let's hear from Mike Schreiner.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I love you, Guelph. Thank you. In 2023, the Ontario Greens made history by electing the second Green MPP in Ontario's history. And I just want to say to Ashland Clancy, from the day you decided to run until the moment you joined me at Queen's Park to be the second Green MPP, I've been inspired by your courage, your intelligence, your tenacity, your passion, and your commitment to the people of your riding and to this province. Together, we held Doug Ford's feet to the fire and delivered for our communities. And so I look forward to teaming up with you again to go back to Queen's Park and represent green voices across this province and to stand up for what's right for our communities and the people of Ontario. You know what? Anyone who thought Ashland Clancy's by-election win in 2023 was a fluke was wrong, and we proved them wrong tonight. And we will keep proving them wrong as we build momentum for the Ontario Green Party across this province. Our party is powered by people. And so I say to the people who ran, the people who knocked on doors, the people who put up signs, the people who braved the cold. And I got to tell you what, there were a lot of cold hands and warm hearts out on the campaign trail over the last month. I want to say to each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you for working so hard for the Ontario Greens. Each and every one of you is a local champion, and I'm forever grateful for the work that you do. I also want to take a moment now to thank a good friend, Matt Richter, the deputy leader for the Ontario Greens. Matt has run many times, and this time yet again, he came so close. I know that tonight was not the results we had wanted, and I know they're not the results that Matt wanted. But I want Matt to know that you will always be a champion in my heart. You lead with honesty, integrity, and a commitment to your community. And if there was ever anyone who deserved to be an MPP, it's Matt Richter. Matt, yeah, let's hear it for Matt. Yeah. There are real and serious challenges facing the province of Ontario in climate, housing, healthcare, education, and tariffs. You could put the word crisis after each and every one of those items. As a matter of fact, it feels like crisis has become the new normal in Ontario. I know that Ontarians want us to do better, and I know that we can do better. And so I say to Mr. Ford, congratulations on a majority government. The 2 Ontario Green MPPs will do our job to hold your government accountable. We will do it as the unofficial official opposition. And I also want to be clear at the same time, we're ready to work across party lines to put people before politics and deliver for the people of Ontario and the people of our communities. And tonight, I say to progressive voters across the province of Ontario, don't agonize, organize. Don't agonize, organize, because just in the same way that people power saved the Greenbelt, people power can fight to build homes that people can afford, to fix healthcare and education, and to protect the people and places we love in this province. We owe it to the people of Ontario to fight for progressive values, and that's why Ontario Greens are going to continue to organize, organize, organize for the people of Ontario.
Hearing there from the Green Party leader Mike Schreiner after he won his seat out in Guelph. They have 2 seats back at the legislature. Mike, but you and I were talking earlier, we're hoping to get 3 tonight.
Yeah, and you heard the emotion in Mike Schreiner's voice there, in particular when he was talking about Matt Richter, who was the PC candidate in Cottage Country, Parry Sound, yes. Muskoka. Mike Schreiner will have, a fellow MPP with him there at Queen's Park, and I would expect to see him putting forward ideas, a lot of policy ideas he has. In fact, his platform, the Green Party platform, was more developed, had actually more detail in it, including numbers, than any of the other parties.
Yeah, because we got it like the last week of the campaign. We started getting these platforms coming out.
They also came out with it way earlier, and his party also was offering a bigger income tax break than any other party.
Interesting, Rosie.
Yeah, I think the other thing you get from Mike Schreiner is him reminding people that they are still empowered, even in a majority situation, right? It is because of opposition parties that the Greenbelt scandal was exposed. And so for the Green Party to have 2 seats and know that they are there to defend certain interests inside Queen's Park is still important, especially on a night like this where you have the PCs with their majority. That is an important message for people.
And we do hear from him a lot at Queen's Park.
That's great.
All right, we have some breaking news for you right now. The CBC Decision Desk has looked at the numbers, and they're projecting that Bonnie Crombie will lose in Mississauga-Cooksville East this evening. This means she will not have a seat in the legislature. This is a huge blow to the Liberals tonight. PC Sylvia Galtieri, who spent many years working behind the scenes as a campaign manager and fundraising chair for the party, stepped out from behind the scenes to take down Bonnie tonight. Mike?
Wow. It's... definition of bittersweet here. Bonnie Crombie having the potential to having grown her party's seat count at Queen's Park might actually get them over that level of official party status, but doesn't win her own seat. Wow. She's going to be crushed, really. And I said earlier that I was getting texts from a Liberal
and you two need to keep talking to those sources. We love that.
It was just this Liberal. There was a Liberal who was questioning whether Bonnie Crombie can survive as leader in that situation where she doesn't win her seat. I've just heard from another Liberal who says she's not going anywhere.
Interesting. All right, this is where all this drama is playing out right now. It's out in Mississauga, and Mr. Common, I understand that's where you're taking us.
We certainly are going to do that. It's an interesting night, Dwight. When you look at it, the Liberals are the only party to actually increase their seat count compared to the last time. Both the PCs and the NDP are down. Yet it's a terrible night for the Liberals. Let's look at why that is. And it begins when you look at the share of the vote. Okay, they're getting almost 1 in 3 of the votes of those who showed up to vote today. Almost 1 in 3. They got way more than the NDP in terms of the share of vote. And yet, because of the way their vote is concentrated, the Liberals are much more spread across the province, the NDP concentrated in specific ridings. And as a result, the NDP end up with more seats. Let's see what's happened in terms of the seat change. There you see it, the Liberals up 6, and it's coming at the expense province-wide of the NDP and the PCs. If we zero in on Mississauga, you remember Bonnie Crombie, 10 years as the mayor of Mississauga. The whole point of bringing her on board was that she would be able to help the party bring all of the ridings in Mississauga under the Liberal flag. Well, that hasn't happened in Mississauga-Malton, projected to be elected, the PC candidate there, by a considerable margin. All the polls reporting as well in Mississauga-Streetsville, 1,800 lead for the PC candidate over the Liberal. Now we go to Lakeshore, Mississauga Lakeshore, and same story once again. It is the PC. All right, Dwight, back to you.
And Rudy Cazzetto is the brother of the winner who just took down Bonnie Crombie tonight. So let's head out there. Lane Harrison standing by at Liberal HQ.
So Dwight, just behind me here, Bonnie Crombie's sons have taken the stage.
Jonathan and I are here tonight to introduce you all to the next Premier of Ontario, our mother, Bonnie Crombie.
See on the shot there, it's still very celebratory here. They were handing out a lot of Bonnie Crombie signs, but one thing that I want to note is that they kind of had to shift all these people you're seeing from one side of the room to the other, because the whole room here is actually not full, even though it may look that way in these close-up shots of Bonnie walking through this crowd. So we'll stand by and see what the future holds for Bonnie Crombie. Obviously all smiles right now, but not the result she was hoping for. When she won the Liberal leadership, she pledged to take every seat in Peel from Doug Ford. She couldn't even win her own seat in Peel tonight, Dwight.
She makes her way to the stage. We will see. It sounds like she's going to talk right away, so we'll just wait this out and let her get to the podium so we can hear from her tonight, Mike Crawley.
Yeah, Dwight, very much putting on a brave face, I think, especially like that introduction. That's you know, kind of cheeky. The next,
yeah, the double next there was the key, yes.
Look, Doug Ford is the premier tonight. Very clearly, he won this election. So, and
well, I mean, does that mean she's staying on? If she's the next, if she has to be there to do that, no?
Yeah, that's going to be her call in many ways, and be interested to hear how she characterizes the results tonight in this speech.
Let's hear from Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for being here. I want to thank each and every one of you for everything you have done in the last 28 days. Oh my gosh, those snowbanks, the salt, how many pairs of shoes have you ruined? You've really stepped up. And many of you put your name on the ballot that are in the room here tonight. So, listen, running for office is no small thing. So no matter who you ran for, or our province and our democracy are better because of the hard work, right? So thank you. I know tonight isn't exactly the result we were looking for, but you should be very, very proud of what we did tonight. People counted us out. They said the Ontario Liberal Party was dead. Huh. Tonight, you prove them wrong. The Ontario Liberal Party is back to official party status, and that's a big milestone. But it gets better. We increased our share of the vote substantially to 30%. Double digits over the NDP, right? So this is a building block for us. It is a momentum that we can continue to push forward and to grow, right? So tonight, let's celebrate all our new MPPs that we're going to bring back, and let's celebrate coming back to party status. So that tomorrow we can get back to work, making sure those other guys do their jobs. Look, voters have given Doug Ford another mandate tonight. Smaller, but nonetheless. But many, many of you are asking for a strong voice to hold him accountable as Premier. And you can count on me, okay? So I'll say this tonight, Doug, we'll be watching. Yep. We know Ontario can do so much better, right? And you know I'm not going to slow down, not for 1 second when it comes up to standing up for the people in this province, right? I'm going to continue to fight for our public health care system every single day, right? Doug, you promised a lot of things during this campaign, and one of them was to get people more family doctors. And I'm going to hold you to it. The Ontario Liberal Party is going to hold you to it, right? Because the people of Ontario deserve more than they've gotten from you over the last 7 years. You promised to protect Ontario, but you neglected Ontario. And we're going to make sure that you go back to protecting us. We'll make sure that you protect our public health care system and our Greenbelt and everyone trying to get ahead in this province who doesn't have a direct line to your office. Ontario, I'm here. I am with you. And I commit to you today that I will stay on. I'll tell you again. Okay. I commit to you that I'll stay on as Ontario Liberal leader so that I can keep fighting for you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Let's enjoy the night.
That was the big question of the night, and she's answered it for us. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie says she's not going anywhere. She's taking tonight's results as a building block for her party. She has brought them out of the wilderness back to official party status. But, Mike Crawley, she does not have a seat.
You know, Dwight, that has probably got to have been the most difficult political speech of Bonnie Crombie's life. You know, you could see the emotion in there. Seemed like she's fighting back tears. Understandable because of the fact that she lost in her seat and is not going to be at Queen's Park. It's also it's really difficult to lead an opposition party and not be in the legislature. That's where, you know, you get to directly hold the government to account. That's where the media are, you know, covering the stories that matter in the Ontario legislature. The tone of the speech obviously is attempting to be looking forward and talking about building blocks and momentum.
You call it bittersweet, she's focusing on the sweet right now. Yeah.
That's what she has to focus on, really, in many ways. And she says she's going to stay on. I think there may be some questions about whether others within the Ontario Liberal Party will want her to stay on. I'm not saying, you know, for sure that they're going to try to push her out, but those questions are being asked tonight, Dwight.
Rosie, the last time we did this, the Liberal leader lost and left. So what happened? She's staying on.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, she can make the argument to stay on, but I do agree with Mike. It is not ever the leader's decision whether they stay on or not. Just ask Justin Trudeau that. People are ready to push you out when they're not happy with the results. And Ashley, I'll bring you in here too. I kind of was looking for a little more, maybe we didn't hear Ontarians on this issue. Maybe we didn't get punched through on this issue, and maybe that will come. The remorse will come. But tell me what you made of your leader's speech there.
Right. I think the message Bonnie was trying to land there is there has been some significant progress today. You know, up to official party status, that is important. It gives us a lot of resources to help us prepare and catch up before the next election. And you know, 30% of the vote, that's not insignificant. And so those are two accomplishments she can hang her hat on.
Sure.
There is a process. The party has a leadership review process that will come. It will shake out. You know, I think we're all getting
automatic,
texts.
or how does it? How does your
under
leadership,
our constitution, after every election, there is an automatic review. So there will be a review vote at an indeterminate point in the future. I'm sure I'll get a text message with some more rules very quickly after saying that. But you know, we're all getting messages from different Liberals, right? And I have people saying she should stay, she should go. But the majority of messages I'm getting are, we do not need another leadership race as a party. This was a rebuilding year. She has grown a lot as our leader, and let's continue to watch her do that, because I'm so proud of that speech she just gave, and I think she's only gotten better and better. So let's see what she can do with some more time to grow.
But you would acknowledge that to do the things that she's talking about in that speech, fight for healthcare, it's pretty darn hard to do that without a seat. It makes your role as leader very challenging.
But you have, you know, you can have a strong caucus in there with a strong House leader, a strong proxy who's in the House. I mean, to be blunt, Doug Ford isn't in the House very often at all. How many question periods did he attend? I'm sure Mike knows off the top of his head, but wasn't it something like 4?
But he's got 79 seats. He can do whatever he wants at this day.
But if you're saying that, like, being in the House is so important to leading a party, I think Doug Ford has proof positive that perhaps it's not.
Vivek, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I would just say Doug Ford got elected. Doug Ford won a majority government. I think he has a lot of priorities inside, but also outside the House. And I think for him, it will be, he will have to be in all of those places. I think it'll be difficult for the Liberal leader in this case to have to wear a visitor pass into Queen's Park to be able to lead the party. We'll see what happens.
This is tough. I'm sorry. This is just not easy. I mean, politics is fascinating. You never know what's going to happen, but I don't know if anyone had this on their bingo card. Well, maybe Patrick Brown did.
Yeah, that's right. I get lots of emails when I'm on the TV, and someone did just email me with it. I thought a good question to put to you, Vivek, about whether this majority for Doug Ford, which remains majority, but is not, you know, maybe the big thing that everybody wanted, whether that will give him pause about some of the things that he needs to focus on, healthcare being one of them. Do you think that he will take a message from what happened tonight?
I think that every leader should take a message. I think for now, the renewed premier, he should actually take a step back and look at how did it all transpire? Sure. What are those priorities? I think the message for him, all of the issues that came up are important. Healthcare is important. Affordability is important. The economic challenges we have are paramount when it's existential. I think for him, it's about how do we execute all of those things at the same time, because they're all critical. But we need to make sure that we are doing good as a province. We're doing well as a province so that we can actually execute on all of those different programs.
I just find this, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be a little, I'm just going to call it out.
Yeah.
The Conservatives had 7 years to get this done, and now you're talking as if he's never had the job before, right? So now it's going to be like, oh, now I'm going to take care of healthcare. You know what, they have
7 years, and every metric of healthcare has gotten worse.
And not only that, I had a friend up north who needed back surgery. Got a referral to a surgeon. The surgeon called and goes, yeah, you can have back surgery in Toronto, but you know, you're going to have to spend an extra $750 to secure the appointment, or you're going to have to wait 2 years and get it done. This is how Doug Ford is fixing healthcare?
Billions of dollars invested in healthcare, but something I would also add, it's not just about the money, it's about assembling a team of rivals to make sure that you have the best people who can actually execute on that job. Dr. Jane Philpott, former Liberal health minister, brought in to actually bring in some of those minds to be able to execute. That is the benefit of having a leader like Doug Ford. He will bring those people regardless of political stripe, and that's what Ontarians voted for.
Last word to you, Ashley.
I will say that Doug Ford did nothing to address the crisis in our with family doctors and the fact that there were 2.5 million people who are looking for one in this province until Bonnie Crombie made it a core plank of her plan, and then he brought in a Liberal to do it. He's done a really good job at selling people on an idea of what he does as Premier, but then when you actually look under the hood and see what he's doing, the guts aren't good. And tonight was a mixed result for my party, and I think you guys lost some seats that everybody lost some seats that they probably have members they're thinking of right now. But the fact of the matter remains, the majority of voters in this province did not vote for Doug Ford, and the opposition has an important role to play in holding them to account, because we have seen what they have done over the last 7 years, and we need to stop some of those giveaways.
And Doug Ford, back to my original point, we'll have to take that into account now moving forward, that he will have to course correct when needed. Dwight, back to you.
Thank you for that, Rose. If you look at the corner of your screen, you see that big Protect Ontario. We're watching that as we wait for the PC leader to make his way to the podium and do his speech. While we're waiting for that, we're going to go to David Cumming with some of the ridings the PCs targeted this campaign, David.
Yeah, absolutely, Dwight. When we look at where we are right now, Trump's tariffs could come on Tuesday. And of course, Doug Ford, when he called this election a little more than a month ago, used it as the justification for why he wanted to have a bigger mandate, more seats. And so they started targeting specific ridings across the province. How did it turn out? Let's look right now. And we begin in Algoma, Manitoulin. All right. This was a riding that had been held by a person who'd been kicked out of the caucus and picked up by the PCs. So good for them, good for the campaign in doing that there. Let's keep moving on to another riding, Hamilton Mountain. Okay, this is another riding pickup for the PCs. But now let's turn to Kanata-Carleton. And it's a different story there. Liberals keeping that riding there, and by a comfortable margin. Karen McCrimmon, one-time federal MP, now heading to the Queen's Park as the MPP there. Oshawa, this was the only riding in the last election in the Greater Toronto Area that went to a party other than the PCs. Well, looks like it's staying with that party. The NDP projected to be elected once again in Oshawa. Dwight, I'll head right back to you now.
Thank you, and we'll continue with the PC strategy here, Mike.
Yeah, Dwight, look, the PCs won, but they didn't grow. They didn't grow the number of seats.
We wanted a bigger majority,
I think what it says about the strategy is, absolutely, from a perspective of winning an election and buying yourself another 4 years, they did the right thing. From a strategy of, expanding the size of your mandate, expanding your caucus at Queen's Park, I guess there's some questions about whether this was the right strategy. I don't really quite know what it was that didn't resonate, because clearly the thing that mattered to people in Ontario right now was the tariffs.
Right? Yeah.
And
but we're back with status quo, it seems like.
And that message obviously worked in winning the election, but it just didn't seem to work in the vast majority of the ridings that the PCs were targeting to try to add to their seat count at Queen's Park.
Rosie, this was an existential threat to us, right? That's why we spent the $180 million to do this tonight. We needed that.
Yeah, well, Doug Ford spent the money. Let's be clear.
Well, it's all our money.
It's all our money, but he made the choice to spend it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, listen, to the point I was making to the panel, I don't think that Doug Ford can look at this result and not take some sort of message from it. Yes, the message can be, people still like me. I have a mandate now to go ahead and deal with Donald Trump. But I think it would be foolish to not also take from the results tonight. I have to be careful. I have to be careful with the decisions I'm making. I have to listen to the opposition parties here, and I have to be held to account by them. And when they do that, I need to be responsive. This is not the sweeping supermajority that we've been talking about.
Yes.
This is a majority that is important and significant, with a little bit of a flashing yellow light, I would say to him.
I like that.
Yeah, Rosie, Doug Ford's campaign people were telling him that 90-plus seats were achievable. And I heard from one PC that the number that Doug Ford actually wanted to get was 96 seats, which would have been the most seats ever in Ontario history. So that's what he was looking for. I'll be interested to hear, in his speech, how does he characterize the win? I'm sure it will come across as, a strong mandate to do the stuff that he wants to. But I'll be listening to see whether he tempers it in any way.
Yeah. He's increased his seat count the last 2 times out, hoping to increase, as you said, to that big number tonight. Let's head out to Protect Ontario and at PC headquarters with Lorenda Redekop as we await the PC leader, Doug Ford, to make his way to the podium. Lorenda.
Well, Dwight, certainly we're going to be listening, wanting to know what Doug Ford says, because he did talk about wanting that bigger mandate, but right now we're not seeing that. We're seeing him end up with, at this point, fewer seats than he got in the last election. So, we're not seeing what he was talking about wanting. And I know I'm reminded of the various times I've interviewed Doug Ford, and he's talked about the polls. Polls are for dogs, he says, which is sort of, I suppose, Ford's version of dad humor. But we know that they're all watching those polls. They're very aware of what was out there for months. And now we're hearing their campaign song. So we know that Doug Ford is going to be getting close here. We're expecting to hear from him very shortly. I want to mention that one of the big cheers we heard in this room was when it was shown on the screen that Bonnie Crombie, the Liberal leader, was defeated in her riding. Certainly no love lost between those two. And so big cheers from the crowd then. And we expect there will be big cheers very soon as Doug Ford comes up and speaks to this crowd. Lots of volunteers who are here, people who were at the various riding, trying to get people out to vote all the way until 9 p.m. when those polls closed. So it's a mixed reaction really tonight because yes, they have that majority that they wanted. The gamble did pay off in that sense, but they didn't get more seats, which we know that that's what they were really looking for as well.
Lorenda, we hear the music playing in the background. It sounds like they're gearing up to have the Premier hit the stage. What are you seeing in the room where you are there?
For sure. I'm not seeing that just yet, but they've got a video, showing him out on the campaign trail. And this is that same campaign theme song that they played every single day when he made his appearances. Often it was Doug Ford getting union endorsements, trying to show himself as the person who would stand up for workers, stand up against U.S. President Donald Trump and that tariff threat. And so we are just waiting for him to come out. We know that's going to be happening soon. I want to mention as well that we weren't sure if he would wait until after Bonnie Crombie finished or not, because initially he had been set to come out right around that same time. But in the end, yes, his campaign did give her time, and now we're just waiting to hear from him, the last leader we'll be hearing from tonight.
All right, we'll keep an eye on you. Mike, he was looking to make history tonight, not only in doing the three-peat like you talked about earlier, but as we said, he was hoping, and it feels like that's what we heard this entire campaign. It was about getting more seats. Now, I think it's about to happen. It sounds like Doug Ford is about to take the stage out in Ford Country at the PC party headquarters, and there he is, everyone. The victor tonight, Doug Ford.
Wow, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Boy, what a crowd. Thank you so much, and what a night, and what a result. Thank you so much. Together we have made history. Together we have secured a strong, historic third majority mandate. A mandate to protect Ontario from the bottom of my heart. I thank you for being here, for sharing this incredible moment with me. To the thousands of volunteers right across this province who braved the cold, who knocked on over 2 million doors, tonight belongs to you. Thank you. I want to begin by thanking Carla and my daughters for your endless support. I couldn't do this without you. I also want to thank Marit Stiles, Bonnie Cromby, Mike Schreiner, and every single person who put their name on a ballot. We can disagree on policy, but there's no question at all, each one of them loves our province, and each one of them loves Canada, the greatest country on earth. Democracy only works if people are willing to step up and step forward. Our province is stronger because of your decision to do so, so I want to thank all the candidates. During my time in office, I hope I've proven I will work with anyone, I will work with everyone to get things done. Now, as we stare down the threat of Donald Trump's tariffs, I will continue to do just that. I will work with every level of government and every political stripe, because fighting back against Donald Trump, standing up for Canada, it will take a full Team Ontario effort. It will take a full Team Canada effort. Friends, over the last 7 years, we've made so much progress together. Over 1 million more people are working today than when we were elected in 2018. We've attracted over $70 billion in new investments into our economy, in new auto and battery plants, in our manufacturing sector, in new life science facilities, in Ontario's growing tech sector. Now together, we have to fight hard to protect our progress. This election, we ask the people for a mandate, a strong mandate that outlives and outlasts the Trump administration, a mandate to do whatever it takes to protect Ontario. Well, friends, the people have spoken. They're ready to stand up for Canada. This election, we ask the people for a mandate to make Ontario the most competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. The people said yes. We asked the people for a mandate to unleash the awesome economic potential of the Ring of Fire. The people said yes. We asked the people for a mandate to build up our economy by tearing down internal trade barriers, and the people said yes. We asked the people for a mandate to cut red tape and the excuses, streamline approvals, and build things faster. The people said yes. We asked the people for a mandate to get the federal government out of our way so we can get shovels in the ground on the projects that will build the true North Strong and Free. The people said yes. We asked the people for a mandate to build pipelines, to build rail lines and transmission lines, to diversify our trade, find new markets, new customers, and rely less on the old ones. The people said yes. We asked the people for a mandate to clean up our streets, crack down on crime, end encampments, and protect schools and daycares from drug injection sites. The people said yes. And we asked the people for a mandate to build Highway 413, the Bradford Bypass, Highway 3, Highway 7, Highway 11, Highway 69, to bring sanity back to bike lanes, to tunnel the 401, to upload Ottawa LRT, and build the future of GO Transit across Greater Toronto Area. The people said yes. This is our plan to protect Ontario. It's a plan that offers big and bold ideas. It's a vision for the future of our great province and a vision for the future of our economy. Ontario is blessed with everything we need to succeed, the best and most skilled workers anywhere in the world. A pipeline of world-class talent with 70,000 STEM graduates each and every single year. Northern Ontario's enormous God-given potential, offering every critical mineral the world wants, every critical mineral the world needs, and one of the cleanest, greenest grids in the world, with the first small modular nuclear reactors in the G7. You know, folks, it's no wonder the world has their eyes on us. They're looking at Ontario with envy. Now, it's up to us to unlock our potential, roll up our sleeves to get to work. We'll retrain workers for better jobs and bigger paychecks. We'll retool companies for new customers and new markets. We'll reshore supply chains to bring good jobs back home. We'll rebuild roads and highways to keep people working and keep our economy competitive. Friends, this election, we promise to do whatever it takes to protect Ontario. And I'm so proud of the support we received. Together, we made more inroads into new communities, with more people seeing themselves reflected in our party, in our priorities. A record number of unions, including first-time supporters like our great firefighters, our great police, uniform locals, hospitality workers, and more trade unions, mayors from every region of Ontario, and everyday hardworking people in Thunder Bay, Timmins, and Sault Ste. Marie, in Eastern Ontario, Hamilton and Windsor, in Brampton and Mississauga. Your support is truly humbling. I will never, ever take it for granted. I will never stop working for you, because we're in a battle for the future of our province, for the future of our country. I promise you this, I will wake up every day and I will fight like I've never fought before. I will fight for every auto worker in Windsor, Woodstock, St. Thomas, and Oakville, in Brampton, Ingersoll, Oshawa, Alliston, and Cambridge. I will fight for every miner in Timmins, Thunder Bay, and Sudbury. I will fight for every steelmaker in Sault Ste. Marie, Nanticoke, and Hamilton. I will fight for every worker on the factory floor, every student starting their career, and every senior starting their retirement. I will fight for First Nations communities, for newcomers, for everyone in Ontario looking to get ahead. I will fight for you. This election was about who we are, about the future we choose for ourselves. Donald Trump thinks he can break us. He thinks he can divide and conquer, pit region against region. Donald Trump doesn't know what we know. He is underestimating us. He is underestimating the resilience of the Canadian people, the Canadian spirit. Make no mistake, Canada won't start a fight with the U.S., but you better believe we're ready to win one. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. So, folks, let me be clear. Canada will never, ever be the 51st state. And Canada is not for sale. Over the last weeks and months, I've seen the best of our province, the best of our country. Hardworking people standing up for what's decent, for what's right. It's you, the people, who will get us through this, who will fight for our future. Together, we're going to emerge from this stronger and more united than ever before. From coast to coast to coast, we're going to stand together. We're going to fight. We're going to fight for our province. We're going to fight for our country. Together, we're going to protect Ontario. I want to thank you, and may God bless the people of Canada. May God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Who's gonna fight for you if there ever was a time to answer the call? Answer the call.
You heard from the victor there, and there's the balloon drop we've been waiting for. Doug Ford heading back to Queen's Park as Premier. He said the people have spoken, but Mike Crawley, have they spoken as loudly as he would have liked them to tonight?
You know, there's a couple of ways of measuring it, Dwight. If you look at the percentage of the vote that Doug Ford and the PCs have, this is actually up in comparison to what they had in 2022, by a couple of percentage points. The seat count that we're seeing right now is 81, down from the last election a little bit. I think there is still a fairly safe PC seat to come that we don't have any results in. King Vaughan there, Stephen Lecce, is highly likely to hold on to that one. So, you know, it'll probably end up looking like a little bit more status quo. I want to pick up on some stuff within the speech. You know, there was the call and response repetition in there. We asked the people for a mandate to do these various things. The people said yes. You know, he listed off a lot of the things that you would expect from Doug Ford. One that I noticed, couldn't help but notice was in there, is the tunnel. So I wonder if the voters of Ontario realize that Doug Ford feels that he's been given a mandate to build a tunnel under the 401, the single most expensive election promise ever made in Ontario history, and we don't know what it's going to actually cost. But, you know, all that other stuff, absolutely. They ran on that platform. And, you know, Doug Ford feels very strongly that he's got a mandate to do all those things.
What did you think of what you heard from Doug Ford there, Rosie?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's very happy. He's very happy to have a third majority. He talked again about how this is a vital moment for the province and the country to stand up against Donald Trump, saying that, you know, we are ready for a fight against the United States if needed. But listen, there are people inside the Progressive Conservative Party that believe the number tonight would be more like 90 plus. You know, Mike Crawley talked at the top about 95, 96. Those were not numbers that they were dreaming about. Those were ideas that they thought they could achieve. So I would imagine that there is a little bit of Doug Ford tonight that is asking himself even, why the heck did I do this if I'm returning with the exact same thing I had before? And that is a fair question, and a fair question for all voters tonight. If you end up with almost the same thing that you had, what was the point of it all? In fact, you could say that Doug Ford had an election to give the Liberal Party party status. That is the major change that's happened tonight.
You're not incorrect.
One key thing that he did accomplish with this is that they held this election before some things that could disadvantage the PC party. I mean, one of the things that they will never say is that we called this election so that it happened before there were any charges laid in the Greenbelt scandal. But that is one thing that they've accomplished, is they got out ahead of that. They got out ahead of the possibility of a Pierre Poilievre federal government, and that weird tendency Ontario has
we all go the opposite way.
of voting provincially for the party that is not the party in power in Ottawa, and also the potential backlash, you know, that there could be if people in Ontario didn't like what they see from the early days of a Pierre Poilievre government. So again, they got the timing right. You know, they seized the moment and won this election.
Rosie, what do you feel about the Poilievre factor here and them trying to avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Pierre Poilievre and Doug Ford are not besties. Like, that is not their relationship. And for that reason, you didn't see any intermingling of them during this election campaign. This is not really the best news for Pierre Poilievre, not because there's no scenario in which he could win government still federally, but because there's also a message for Conservatives here. And that message is that that the Donald Trump factor is important, and you need to make that kind of a centerpiece of your campaign. It's something that Pierre Poilievre is trying to do. We'll see whether he succeeds, but that is the other part of this message for federal Conservatives. Again, listen, Doug Ford is very happy. Look at him. He's having a great time. He loves being in there amongst the people. But I would imagine still a small part of him is thinking, this wasn't quite where I thought I would end up tonight.
As we see Doug leaving, I can see in the corner of our screen there that NDP leader Marit Stiles is arriving at her campaign headquarters. The cheers there, and hopefully we'll get a chance to hear from her tonight. There she is, Marit Stiles winning her seat tonight in Davenport. 25 seats in the House, Mike.
So Marit Stiles had a pretty tough job in this campaign. She really had to introduce herself to the people of Ontario. She was a school trustee before she became an MPP, but there's an old saying that if you want to be put in the witness protection program, become the leader of the opposition of a provincial political party. A lot of people don't know who you are. So, she ran a campaign that ended up with a pretty decent result for the NDP. I'll be interested to hear how she characterizes it. She'll be a bit disappointed that they lost a few seats, but overall, not a bad night for Marit Stiles.
And let's wait as she walks up onto the stage and speaks to her supporters tonight at her downtown campaign party headquarters.
Thank you. Thanks for your work. So grateful. Thank you so much. Oh, wow. Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Marit Stiles. Look, we set out in this election to form a government on your side. Now, the results aren't everything that we hoped for, but the people of Ontario made their choice. They've re-elected the government, hoping it will help protect them from Donald Trump and his tariffs. And they've entrusted me and my team to do a different, but also very important job. Folks, we've been tasked again to serve the people of Ontario as their official opposition. To hold this government to account. And that is the job that we are going to do with our usual fight and our determination, but also with love and hope and optimism. And you know what? In another few years, we are gonna face a rematch. And I'm there for it, my friends. Now, listen, I want you to know that I'm congratulating tonight Premier Ford on his victory. And I really do want to offer him any possible help that we can provide in the face of the threat of Donald Trump. The threat is real. And I deeply believe that we can overcome it with a strong Team Ontario and a strong Team Canada approach. So, you know, my message to the people of Ontario is, in the face of Trump, we will stand together, and we, the Ontario NDP, will stand up for the people. Tell you, it is so wonderful to see you all here tonight. As I think about the last few weeks and the people that I have met from one end of this province to the other, I know many people are going to be disappointed that we weren't able to make the change that I think so many people need right now, right? Like real rent control. And protection from the rising cost of food and everything. Like a stronger public health care system. And a stronger, better school system to support all our kids. Right? And I heard from a lot of working people out there who want a government that respects them. Whether they teach our children, drive a bus, care for our sick or our elderly, grow our food, or make the products that drive our economy. I heard from people, you want a government that's going to stand up for you, and one day I will deliver that government. As well, I heard from a lot of people out there on the road that want us to bring back some integrity to government and to stop the wasteful government scandals, and you can count on us to continue to hold the government to account every single day. And I want to be really clear to every single Ontarian, no matter how you voted in this election, I will always be on your side, and I will never, ever take your vote for granted. Not ever. So look, we have been given a really big job to do, right? And we are going to do it for the people of Ontario. But most of all tonight, I really want to say a big thank you. I want to say thank you to every single candidate from every party who put themselves forward in this election. In Canada, free, fair, peaceful elections is what we do. It is a big piece of why we are going to keep our country. You got that, Donald? But look, I want to say thank you in particular to all the candidates in my party, in our party, who stepped up, who stepped forward to run. You know, I feel our wins. I feel our wins, but I feel our losses too, right? And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you as well to all the volunteers. And our staff teams who gave so many hours to this race. You made our campaign possible. You inspired me. And can I just say, I think that possibly the pollsters are going to have to go back and take another look at all of this. Because if there's one thing we know, it's that New Democrats, our volunteers, the people who want the kind of change we're offering, they show up every time. Now listen, I want to finish with saying this. Thank you to the labor movement. All the workers who came out to canvass, to make calls, to talk to voters. You are the foundation of our party and our movement. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And thank you as well. I have to give a big thank you to the people of Davenport. Thank you so much. I am so honored by your vote. It has been a privilege and continues to be a privilege to represent you every single day. And of course, my family. I gotta thank my family for supporting me. As always, you are my strength. I love you all so much. And now, my friends, let's get back to work. Thank you so much. Let's do it.
NDP leader Marit Stiles there with her victory speech for winning her seat and also for how her party did tonight. She said the threat is real. Donald Trump's threat is real, and we will stand up to him together. Mike, they say if you know Marit Stiles, you like her. The worry was if enough Ontarians knew her. That's what her party was worried about.
Yeah, Dwight, that was quite the speech. Really strong, very enthusiastic. I mean, a lot easier for her to deliver that speech than it was for Bonnie Crombie to deliver her speech.
Yes.
But a couple of things I wanted to pick up on. You heard her say there that when she reached out to Doug Ford to congratulate him, she said, that she's willing to provide. She offered any help we can provide in that fight against Donald Trump and tariffs. Yeah. And so that was a really interesting tone to hit in the speech, of a positive, constructive tone. And at the same time, she also talked about the important role of being the official opposition. So some very strong stuff from Marit Stiles in there. And I think a lot of people, when they see, if they were watching through tonight, if they see clips of that tomorrow morning, that's a side of Marit Stiles that the NDP is definitely going to want to showcase going forward.
Over the next 4 years. All right, over to you now, Rosie. I mean, what did you think of what she had to say and the position that the NDP is in now in Ontario?
I mean, I think everyone has to start working together against Donald Trump. That's 100%. What voters expect at this point. Marianne, what did you make of the speech?
I thought it's great. And yes, with Marit, people who know her, like her, she's trustworthy, she's authentic and genuine. And that's kind of rare in politics. And I think she will definitely in the next 4 years be a force going up against in the next election. But she will hold Doug Ford to account like she has been.
She has, yeah.
So, and she's been very effective. And, it's I don't know if that's the final seat count or not, but, losing a couple of those seats are really tough. But the new faces that we've got at caucus, they're going to be one powerful team. So that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, potentially down 5 seats if this is where we end up. I noticed that the Progressive Conservatives are back up to 82, which is where you were in the last election. So really status quo now. What did you make of Doug Ford's speech, Vivek?
I think the Premier said it best in terms of winning a mandate to protect Ontario, but also saying that he's also willing to work with anyone and everyone
that's right. He did say that,
to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
I think also understanding that this is about building on the progress of a strong, revitalized auto sector, energy when it comes to SMRs that he referenced, when you're looking at the life sciences, when you're looking at all of those accomplishments, to make sure that that is not experiencing a backslide from what's happening internationally. And that is going to be the focus for the next 4 years, to go toe-to-toe, year for year, overlaid on top of a Trump mandate.
Do you think there's an appetite? I'll ask all of you this. Is there an appetite for everyone to work together? There was an attempt for that to happen federally. Because of the context we're in, it was not possible. But we did see the premiers and the prime minister working together. We saw business leaders gathering together. Is there an opportunity now that this election has passed for this to actually happen? Yeah,
in December, Bonnie Crombie sent a letter saying, let's put together an all-party panel and let's sit down and let's work on this together when this tariff threat started to get more real. And I don't think, at the end of the day, we all have party hats that we wear, but we're all people of Ontario, we're all Ontarians, and we're all Canadians first. And I think that we all share a desire to take on this tariff threat head on and to make sure that we're standing up not just for our economic growth and our economic health, but our sovereignty as Canadians. And what started as maybe a joke is very clearly becoming a very real threat to our country in a very real way. So elections are important. The people have spoken. But at the end of the day, I do think every single person in this province needs to be ready to row in the right direction right now.
But we were already there anyway. That's the whole point of all of this, is that there was not a single party leader who would have said no, go ahead and let Donald Trump do whatever he wanted to do. So basically what I heard out of Doug Ford's speech is that he had just spent $189 million to get a mandate that he already had in the first place. So what did we go through all this for? And he just wasted $189 million to do it because all the three party leaders were willing to work together. He didn't say anything different that he wasn't going to do that he hasn't said the past two elections before. And now we're at a status quo with the numbers.
Yeah, Vivek?
I think at the end of the day, if you look at agreeing to work together, that's one thing. But what are you specifically going to do? That is when things get more contentious, more difficult. People disagree. Doug Ford outlined approaches to responding to American tariff threats. That is something that we now know how he will respond. Ontarians have voted for that, and that's been made very clear.
Yeah, and I mean, that is what the federal ballot issue will be too. Like, who is the best placed to respond to this, and what are they putting on the table to respond to it? And to Vivek's point, that's fair. He said, I'm going to put $40 billion behind things. I'll consider turning off electricity to the United States if needed. I'll shut down the Starlink contract. Like, there were specifics that he put there that maybe weren't there before. Yeah, Ashley.
I mean, on the Starlink contract, he ripped it up and then he taped it back together. But we can, that's perhaps ancient history at this point. I do really like what you said there, though, about the federal ballot question and this. And I think that as much as I think it was important to have a conversation about healthcare and the fact that we're at a tipping point with our healthcare system in this province, obviously the results tell us that most people going to the polls were doing so because of the tariff and economic argument that Doug Ford was laying down. And we could have conversations about vote efficiency and where the boots were and all that. The postmortems will happen. So if I was sitting here as a federal Liberal right now and putting on I'm going to vote, I have my ballot, I did I would say let's take a lesson from this. Yeah. And the ballot question is tariffs, and the ballot question is Trump, and who is our best candidate to take on Donald Trump, and who do Canadians trust the most of our candidates to do so. And I think that it's becoming increasingly clear who that would be in Mr. Carney, and let's see where we go on that front, because I think this is, we should take a lesson from this.
Yeah, I mean, there's lessons for everybody here too. Federally, there always are. So that's the way it goes. Okay. We'll come back to these guys. Dwight, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rosie. If you look at the bottom of your screen, we were telling you all night, that's where you can keep track of the overall race in real time. We've heard from all the party leaders now, but we're still going, folks. David Common is still looking at some ridings. He may be talking about yours right now.
Yeah, Dwight, I mean, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there, you will see ridings, specific information for your area. The check mark means we've projected that they are elected in that riding, but there are some where the check mark doesn't yet exist because it is still too close to call. But there are a few ridings that we wanted to highlight for you. It starts in Ottawa. Senator Katherine McKenny projected to be elected there. Look at the lead there, 19,000 votes. This is one of the largest leads by the number of votes anywhere in the province, the NDP seat there over the Liberals. Okay, moving on to Nepean, another Liberal seat. The lead is not as big, but it's, of course, sufficient to be projected elected in that area. Is that a stethoscope around his? I guess he's a doctor. All right. Doug Downey, the Attorney General in Barrie Springwater, Oro-Medonte, another big lead there over the Liberal candidate. This was the one riding that seemed to be competitive in Central Ontario, at least heading into this. well, maybe not as competitive with a 5,000 vote lead. Okay, here we are, Bay of Quinte. The PCs holding this. Tyler Alsop, the incumbent there, he is projected to be elected. And 87 of 87 polls, same thing. All the polls reporting in Kingston and the Islands. This is the largest lead anywhere in the province of Ontario. So Ted Sue picking it up with a lead of 21,000 plus votes for Kingston and the Islands. So we'll look also at Spadina, Fort York. Chris Glover projected to be elected for the NDP in that riding, holding it downtown Toronto riding for the NDP. And the map looking like this.
Thank you, David. All right, let's head out to Ford Nation right now to the Victory Party where Lorenda Redekop is standing by at PC headquarters. Lorenda.
Well, Dwight, it doesn't look like much of a victory party, just those balloons, those sad balloons left on the floor. But this crew, they clear out quick. It was the same thing after the last election. I'm told that the staffers, they're actually going to be celebrating elsewhere. So it is a victory party for this PC party, but it wasn't perhaps the lead that they were expecting. We had heard from PC leader Doug Ford saying that he was looking for a stronger mandate. In his speech, we did hear from him saying, together we made history, is what he said. You know, certainly he does have a third majority mandate, which is unusual in this province, something that hasn't happened since the 1950s. And we also heard from him really a call for unity. He was gracious, thanking all the other party leaders, naming them off by name. And then he said, you know, that they may disagree on policy, but he said that each one of them, he knows that they love their province and they love the country. And that's really the message that we had heard from him as leader of the Premier's group, really calling for Canada to be all one. Now you can hear those balloons being popped. They want to get out of this room, I will say, because this is a banquet hall and there's actually a booking tomorrow. So they're wanting to get people out of this room pretty quickly. We are told that they're going to be letting us stay here for until at least 11:30. But I want to mention a couple other things that Doug Ford did say in his speech. Of course, as expected, he brought up Donald Trump and saying that Trump thinks that he can break us, but doesn't know what we know, he said. And he also mentioned, and this one got a lot of cheers from the crowd here, saying Canada won't start a fight with the U.S., but he said, you better believe it, that we are ready to win one. So really sticking to that message that this is about Trump and tariffs and trying to outlive the mandate of Donald Trump. And Doug Ford will be doing that because now he's won a mandate for another 4 years. He will be in office longer than Donald Trump is set to be. Dwight, I'll leave it for you with these popping balloons.
I was going to
here.
say, you're doing a great job out there with all those balloons popping behind you. And also, thanks for letting us know why there's no party tonight, because we were expecting a victory party, but they're off somewhere else. Great job. Thank you for that, Lorenda. Next, let's go to NDP headquarters where Dale Manukduk is standing by downtown Toronto. Dale.
Yeah, Dwight, no balloons to pop here, but we're still hearing cheers. This is a big night for the people that came to support Mark Stiles and the Ontario NDP. And while they lose seats in the legislature, you know, it's still a big win for the party because of the projections. You know, Mark Stiles had a moment in her speech where she took a shot at the pollsters, right? You know, she said that Ontario New Democrats, they show up. So whether the polls said that they were going to finish in third place, lose a bunch of seats, yes, they did lose some seats, but it wasn't this devastating night for the NDP. So, you know, all in all, a good night for them, I would say. And the mood in the room would back that up. You know, it was cheers and NDP all night long.
Sounds like they will be having a party there at the Great Hall downtown Toronto. Dale Manukduk there. Thank you for that, Dale. Let's head out to Mississauga next, where we'll find our Lane Harrison at the Liberal headquarters. Lane.
Well, Dwight, we heard a lot before tonight about how this election would end up being a race for second between the Liberals and the NDP. And I think you can see pretty clearly in the contrast between what was behind Dale, lingering cheers, a lot of noise, still some jubilation there, compared to what's going on here in Mississauga. Everyone has left the room and they are packing up and getting ready to go home. But despite that loss, despite this, what appears to be turning out to be a third place finish for the Liberals, there are some things that they are proud of, namely, which myself and the panelists and lots of people have discussed tonight, is it appears they will get back to that official party status, which they are happy about. And Bonnie Crombie says that she will not be stepping down. I spoke to a member of Crombie's team who says that much like Ford was keeping the focus on tariffs, she says that Bonnie and the Liberals will be keeping the focus on healthcare, which was, of course, the biggest focus of the campaign that they ran over the last 29 days. And they say that even though Bonnie doesn't have a seat in the legislature, she will still be working as hard as possible with those of her colleagues in the party who do to continue to hold Doug Ford and the Conservatives to account on the healthcare file. But overall, I mean, for many Liberals, a disappointing night, though I understand there are still some races like the Eglinton Lawrence race, which is a close race for them that will be waiting until the morning to hear. So maybe some lingering good news will come through for them, but not the best night here, Dwight.
No, we can literally see them just taking down all the signs behind you and wrapping it up there at Liberal HQ. Thank you for that, Lane. Let's head out to Guelph next, where we'll find Farah Morelli with the Green leader. Farah.
Hey, Dwight, that's right. I'm joined by the leader of the Ontario Greens, Mike Schreiner. Mike, first off, huge congratulations for a landslide victory for yourself in your home riding of Guelph, as well as a landslide victory for your colleague Aisling Clancy in the riding of Kitchener Centre. How are you feeling tonight?
Well, I think people like their Green MPPs. I think the fact that I won in a landslide, Aisling won in a landslide, shows that people like Green MPPs because we work hard for them. We put people before party and politics, and we deliver for our communities. We just now need to increase the number of Green MPPs, and I'm disappointed we weren't able to do that, but we're going to keep building on the momentum we've started here in Guelph and in Kitchener.
I want to ask you a little bit more about that. Success for you, you said before, it was growing your caucus. And in your speech, I noticed you got emotional when you spoke about this loss in Parry Sound, Muskoka, and this loss by this candidate, Matt Richter, who is a friend of yours. Why was it so emotional for you tonight?
Well, I just think Matt leads with honesty, integrity, and a commitment to his community, and I think we need more of that in politics. And one of the cruel things about politics is that sometimes really good people don't win. Actually, oftentimes really good people don't win. And, for somebody like Matt, who I think would make a fantastic MPP and would just really uplift the level of debate and decorum at Queen's Park and just work hard and deliver for his community, to come so close and not get across the finish line was deeply disappointing.
What are you taking away from the loss of that riding? Because it was really a place where you spent a lot of time campaigning. 2 of the final 4 days of the campaign, there was a big push to really try and flip this riding. I mean, what are you taking away from this loss?
You know what? I think we worked hard to win that riding. We felt like it was a riding that we were going to win, and we came very close. And, sometimes in politics, you come close, but, it's not like horseshoes, it doesn't count. And so we're going to continue to keep building our party. I think we need more people like Matt Richter to go into politics, who go into it for all the right reasons, but sometimes they come up short.
You talked about, holding Doug Ford's feet to the fire. You joked about being the unofficial, official opposition. How do you plan to do that when you go back to Queen's Park with your caucus of 2?
I think Aisling Clancy and I punch well above our weight at Queen's Park, and we've earned a reputation as the kinds of politicians that hold government accountable. We don't hold back, but at the same time, we're willing to work across party lines to deliver things for the people of Ontario and for our ridings, and that's exactly what we're going to do when we go back to Queen's Park.
Thank you very much. That is Mike Schreiner, leader of the Ontario Greens, speaking about a successful night for the party, maintaining 2 seats. And a fun fact for you, Mike Schreiner actually got the most number of votes out of any candidate across Ontario tonight, just over 34,000. Back to you, Dwight.
Wow, thank you for that, Farah. So she told you how many votes that Mike Schreiner got, but did you get out to vote tonight, Ontario? Let's take a look at that. That 2022 election was the worst turnout with only about 44% of Ontarians casting a ballot. 2018 was one of the highest with about 57%. So Mike Crawley, how did we do in 2025 here?
Well, I'm looking at that number, Dwight. It's just shy of 5 million people, and the turnout is actually higher than in the last election. And so, look,
Thank you, Ontario.
There was a ton of concern that, you know, when you throw all these things together, snap, snap election, and the fact that, you know, what was this election really about? All that kind of stuff. And suddenly, actually, it seems that people turned out.
Yeah, I'm emboldened by that. Let's see how many female candidates and how they did tonight. We knew that 2 of the party leaders are female. It's important to look at how many women are at Queen's Park. And we hate to see that negative by that change. This shows the number of female candidates who have won or are leading in a seat, broken down by party there. And Mike, unfortunately, the change is -4, so we've lost 4.
So to put that number in perspective, 44 female MPPs at Queen's Park. There's 124 seats in the legislature. So I'm doing my math on the fly. They're a little bit more than a third. Not parity. It is not 50%.
Nope. Rosie, what do you think about that? We do have party leaders in this province that are female, but not a lot of candidates there.
Yeah,
in comparison to the 124 that we could, you know, half of that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want a better representation across the board from all different genders and places and diversity. Like, that all helps inside Queen's Park. I just want to go back to the voter turnout.
Yes.
Because, yes, we were expecting lower than that. We were even thinking might be under 40 because of the advance voting. But I will also just say that 45% turnout is nothing to celebrate, right? We are at a critical time for this country.
But when you look at overall how we do, we just don't.
But
so
surely we can set the bar higher than 45% for engaging in democracy. At
highest...
a time when the country is facing these kinds of threats. So, great that we got better than we did last time for Ontario, but frankly, that's probably not good enough.
The highest ever turnout, 2 decades, was about 57%, and that's because it was a change election and people were looking for change. It is disappointing. You're not incorrect about that. Let's head over to David right now. We're going to look at some of the races we can't call tonight, David.
Yeah, there are a number of races that we can't call. I'm just thinking about what Rosie's talking about with voter turnout. I mean, Germany had an election on Sunday. 83% of eligible voters showed up. So 45%, I mean, what can we say? Not the worst ever. That's about the cheer that we're at.
That's what we said.
So look, let's break down why we were, after just 8 minutes, able to call or make a projection about a government, but not able to call yet 5 of the ridings, and that includes Mississauga, Erin Mills. Okay, look at that lead. It's just 20. But you also look in the upper right-hand corner, all the polls are reporting. So why is that? It is because for all of the ridings that I'm showing you right now, Elections Ontario says they've counted all the votes, but they're waiting to count some of the mail-ins and other special ballots. And what that means is the number of ballots that could still be to come could change the outcome of these particular ridings. Mississauga, Erin Mills, the first of those 5. Let's go to the second now. And that is in Sault Ste. Marie, a lead of 118. You know, mail-in ballots, if they've sent out, and I don't know how many they've sent out, but if they've sent out 300 of them, it could change the outcome of that riding. Another one, York Southwestern. Look at that lead, 144. Same deal. We do not know for any of these when they will be counted. Could be overnight, could be in the days to come. Eglinton Lawrence, another example of that. Really close with a lead of 167. Another good example, you know, if you're questioning whether it's right to show up to vote, this is another example. So 331 in Ajax, the Liberal candidate there on track to unseat the PC incumbent. That's significant there because this is all part of the broader 905, the GTA. If it holds like this, it would be a crack in the GTA for a party other than the PCs. Because last election, it was only Oshawa, and I think Oshawa stayed, it did stay with the NDP. So it's a slight shift, and it's something as we start looking ahead. But of course, we've got a lot of things ahead,
Thank
including
you.
Tuesday, Trump's tariffs. All right, Dwight, back to you.
Thank you very much for that. Mike, you want to jump in before we go to Rosie in the panel?
A quick thing, David, you talked about how close the margins are in some of those ridings. In Eglinton Lawrence, 1,900 mail-in ballots were sent out. Again, we don't know how many of those will come back. So that is far more than the margin in Eglinton Lawrence of 167. Ajax had 900 mail-in ballots sent out, and that again a lot more than what the margin is. So, some still to come.
Thank you very much for that. Rosie, over to you for some final thoughts as we wrap things up
Thanks,
tonight.
Dwight. We're about 30 seconds each. Ashley, final thought.
You know, party status, it's a big step for us as a party, the Ontario Liberal Party. We need to keep rebuilding. We're going to have a lot more resources now, and we'll take away, we'll do a bit of a debrief on what happened here. But I think for now it makes sense for us to stick with Bonnie Crombie, to not throw ourselves into a leadership race, and to continue growing in the right direction.
Mayo?
I think Mart and the NDP have a lot to be proud of. They fought Ford Nation and they held their own, which was great. They're going to just get ready and get to work tomorrow and hold the government to account.
Vivek.
Been watching the polls, watching the seats. We'll see. It could still tick up, but
You won, Vivek.
You know what I'm saying? But a win is a win is a win. So
Yeah.
I think the Premier now has to take that win and get back to work, as he's planning to do with very ambitious plans.
So that's a good question to end on. Do you think that how quickly does Queen's Park get back? How quickly does he form his cabinet? How is this going to unfold, do you think, in terms of the timeline?
I understand that it does take, from a statutory perspective, around 2 weeks to actually bring the legislature back. So you'll have that to contend with in terms of formally bringing government back, or at least the Queen's Park.
Yeah.
I think for him, he is keen to start immediately to actually get back to do the work of the people, as he has been doing throughout the campaign as
Particularly because, as David said, those tariffs threatening
That's
to
right.
arrive as of Tuesday.
That's
okay.
right.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a lot of fun, which is what politics should be as well. Yeah, Dwight.
Thank you, Rosie. Great panel. Let's get some final thoughts from Mr. Common.
Yeah, Dwight, I would just give kudos to anybody who did go out and brave the weather in a February election. Thunder Bay in the midst of a snowstorm right now, 25 centimeters getting dumped there, and they faced that. Toronto got 54 centimeters in the middle of this campaign. And so if you got out, were able to push your stroller, climb over a mountain of snow and get there, good for you for participating in your civic duty.
Because it is so very important. Mr. Crawley.
Yeah, Dwight, a win, absolutely. Doug Ford has won 3 straight majorities, and said it once earlier tonight, that hasn't been accomplished in Ontario by a premier since the late 1950s. I wasn't alive then. So it's a big win. I'm also noticing that actually it looks like every single one of Doug Ford's cabinet ministers who ran again has been re-elected.
Thank you for that. And thank you for joining us tonight. What a night it has been. Premier Ford has done it again. Thank you to our studio team, David Common, for bringing us the results throughout the evening, our chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton. Thank you to our panelists, Maran Nader, Ashley Chinadi, and Vivek Prabhu. And of course, I call him the encyclopedia beside me, senior Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley. All of our great field crews out there tonight. Of course, our CBC Decision Desk. And, of course, who? You. Thank you for joining us here on Ontario Votes 2025. Good night, everybody. Decision Desk has looked at all the numbers and they are ready to make a call.